Fufurofurfur, welcome back, Ms. Nicole Albia. Doflamingo looked at Albia, who came forward, smiled evilly, and greeted her. Albia did not hide the disgust on his face, stopped a few steps before Doflamingo, raised the devil fruit in his hand, and asked in a deep voice, Donquixote Doflamingo, when will you leave Ohara? When do you want me to leave? Doflamingo raised an eyebrow. Now, immediately. Ohara doesn't welcome people like you, Albia said without hesitation. Doflamingo didn't care about Albia's attitude and tone at all. As a strong man, showing tolerance and kindness to the weak is also a manifestation of demeanor. In addition, looking at the devil fruit held by Albia in his hand, Doflamingo was also in a very happy mood at this time, and naturally he would not care about these rudeness with her. No problem at all. Doflamingo nodded in agreement, then looked at Virgo beside him and said, how are the materials prepared? It's already been arranged, and we can set sail at any time, Virgo said without hesitation. Then give orders, let's all board the ship, follow Ms. Albia's request, and let's leave here, Doflamingo said immediately. He doesn't have any extra purpose in Ohara. Whether it's the latest version of the Devil Fruit illustrated book or the advanced knowledge about hockey, he has already got it. Now there is only this Devil Fruit left, so why stay in Ohara? Are you looking for a scholar's certificate? The key is that after a few years, Ohara will lose himself, and it is not cost-effective to take a test for a certificate. People from the Donquixote family began to board the Flamingo not far away, and at the same time, the Flamingo also began to weigh anchor and prepare for sailing. Albia breathed a sigh of relief. Maybe this bastard is not very reasonable, but at least he still speaks of credibility? I heard that he is the largest smuggler in the dark world of North Blue. Maybe he really values reputation? That's good news for Ohara. As everyone knows, for Doflamingo, reputation and so on are divided into objects. When facing qualified people, he naturally talks about credibility, but Ohara obviously does not have this qualification. Sin. This is the devil fruit you want. According to the description on the Devil Fruit illustrated book, it is indeed the legendary phantom beast vampire form. Also, about sleeping ancient town, there are still some things hidden on it, Albia said. However, it is obvious that Doflamingo has absolutely no interest in what historical mysteries are hidden in sleeping ancient town. After he took the long-awaited devil fruit from Albia's hand, he put it aside immediately. He waved his hand and said, okay, don't need to say much, I'm not interested in the rest of the information about sleeping ancient town. Now that the devil fruit is in my hands, our deal is over. Let me go. After finishing speaking, Doflamingo walked directly past Albia and headed towards the Flamingo not far away. Just kidding, he can't wait to get on the boat and eat devil fruit, and experience the power of the phantom beast. How can he be in the mood to listen to what Albia said about the history of sleeping ancient town? Chi, annoying to death. Albia was also stunned, and looked back at Doflamingo, who was walking without any muddle, as if he was a little confused. Is this really gone? But soon, Albia came back to his senses. Let's go. If he leaves earlier, Ohara will be safe sooner. With the sails raised, the Flamingo quickly left the port of Ohara. In the cabin, Doflamingo was sitting in front of the sofa, playing with the Eudemon's devil fruit in his hands, and couldn't hide the smile on his face. Is this the ability you've been thinking about all along? Virgo asked curiously as he touched his chin while sitting aside. That's right. This devil fruit will help me open the door to the world's top experts. Now that I think about it, I'm a little excited. Doflamingo raised his eyebrows. Have you really decided to eat this fruit? Virgo asked again. It's decided. Although I have also considered Logia's thunder fruit, a bird in the hand is worse than 1,000 birds in the forest, and the phantom beast. Maybe stronger than thunder fruit. Doflamingo said without hesitation. In fact, it's good to give this devil fruit to Virgo to eat. Virgo and Zone's abilities match very well, especially since this is a phantom beast with a high upper limit, which can bring great help to Virgo. Secondly, as a bat fruit, or a vampire form of phantom beasts, don't even think about it, this fruit must be able to give people the ability to fly. So once this fruit is eaten, Sky Island will no longer be so unreachable. It is also possible to arrange for Virgo to go to Sky Island to find and bring down the thunder fruit. But as Doflamingo said just now, a bird in hand is worse than 1,000 birds in the forest. What if thunder fruit hasn't spawned from Sky Island at this time? At that time, wouldn't his Doflamingo be blind for nothing? What a waste of time. In addition, this devil fruit is not as bad as thunder fruit, so Doflamingo decided to eat it. Seriously, before eating this devil fruit, do you want to experience the feeling of swimming for the last time? After all, after you eat this fruit and become a capable person, you will become a landlubber. Virgo hesitated after a while, a suggestion was made. Doflamingo froze for a moment, then shook his head and said, "No need. Although I like to hold swimsuit parties, I don't like swimming." That's right. The young master is still very fancy and likes to enjoy life very much. Although he is only 17 years old and will soon be 18 years old, when he was in North Blue's old lair, this guy always held some fancy parties and invited some beautiful models, actors and so on, playing together. Seeing this, Virgo stopped consoling him, and quietly waited for Doflamingo to become a capable user. And Doflamingo held the devil fruit, looked left and right, and didn't see him take a bite for a long time, which made Virgo a little anxious. After all, he couldn't help but said, "Dover, what are you doing?" Cough. Doflamingo cleared his throat in embarrassment, and then said, "You know, after eating this thing, there is no saying that you regret it. This is a once-in-a-lifetime situation, so I am considering whether to what would you like to say first." "So what do you want to say as a testimonial?" Virgo asked a little helplessly, but also a little funny. Doflamingo looked at the devil fruit in his hand, and then said, "In my short life, I learned one thing. Go. Virgo? Wait, short life? Don't say it like you're going to die. Also, who is Gogo? You are not calling me, are you? First of all, I would like to declare that I can neither play basketball, nor comb the middle part, let alone wear overalls." But before Virgo could express the doubts in his heart, Doflamingo suddenly raised the devil fruit in his hand and said, "Human beings have limits, so I won't be human anymore, Gogo." As soon as the words fell, Doflamingo took a bite and bit the devil fruit, and then, an indescribable taste filled his taste buds. Doflamingo almost burst into tears at once. How should I put it? The most impoverished time in his life was when he brought Rosinante to rummage through the trash cans to find some slop to eat. The taste was simply amazing. And now, the smell of this devil fruit is even more disgusting than the swill of his memory. But Doflamingo is also a ruthless person. Although the devil fruit only needs to take the first bite to take effect, in order to avoid any problems in the future, anyway, Doflamingo is ruthless and eats the whole devil fruit with tears. Doflamingo's aggressive operation stunned Virgo. It wasn't until the young master picked up a tissue from the table and wiped the corners of his mouth while feeling sick, that Vigo finally came back to his senses. Then, he looked at Doflamingo very nervously, and asked, "How is it? Did you feel any changes?" Doflamingo was silent for a moment, then raised his hand to look around his body. "Tisk, it seems nothing has changed." "Damn it, Albia, that bastard woman, didn't she make a fake for me?" Doflamingo said with anger in his eyes. "This damn devil fruit doesn't work. Could it be that I was calculated? This seems to be the phantom beast I want, but it is actually the human fruit human form? Ability is not able to swim? Impossible." Just now Doflamingo checked carefully. This is indeed the Zone Bat Fruit Phantom Beast vampire form in the Devil Fruit illustrated book. Just when Doflamingo was thinking about these messy things, Virgo said suddenly, "Dover, your eyes seem to have flashed a scarlet stream just now." Huh. Doflamingo froze for a moment, then quickly took off the gaudy sunglasses on the bridge of his nose. Doflamingo's eyes had always been a mystery in his previous life, and there were even a lot of spoof speculations. But now, Doflamingo, who has really become the young master, can say responsibly that the young master's eyes are not only not the so-called bean eyes, on the contrary, they are also very beautiful, and match his facial features very well. The reason why he often wears sunglasses is, on the one hand, to be handsome and cool. On the other hand, as the saying goes, the eyes are the windows to the soul. People often say that inadvertent eyes cannot deceive people, so Doflamingo wants to avoid inadvertently revealing whatever the mood. I like to wear sunglasses to cover my eyes. In this way, it will be difficult for others to judge some information from his eyes. Taking off his sunglasses, Doflamingo asked, "Has there been any changes?" "Yes." Virgo nodded immediately, and then said, "Dover, your pupils are blood red now." Doflamingo is not colored pupils, his previous pupils were pure black without any extra color. But now, it seems that under the influence of devil fruit, it has turned into a blood-like scarlet color. Just when Doflamingo wanted to find a mirror to see the changes in his pupils, he suddenly felt the canine teeth in his mouth itch. Instinctively raised his hand to touch it. Good guy. I don't know when. His originally not quite the humble Hoya suddenly became so exaggerated. This is not over yet. Not only the teeth have changed, Doflamingo also felt some changes in his sense of smell. He suddenly found that Virgo seemed to have an extra smell. This smell as his never smelled it before. That's the smell of blood. It seemed that he could smell the smell of Virgo's blood, and he could even hear it with his ears. In Virgo's body, the blood that was constantly surging in the blood vessels was so surging. There seemed to be a voice in my heart, calling him again, luring him again, to absorb Virgo's surging blood. Of course, it's not the kind of simple and crude blood-sucking, but a kind of higher-end power. Even if he doesn't know much about it yet, Doflamingo seems to know it innately. That kind of power, through the blood, can take away the vitality of the opponent. Dover, your teeth! Virgo exclaimed. It was also his exclamation that seemed to interrupt the rationality in Doflamingo's mind. The next moment, Doflamingo's eyes flashed fiercely, and the scarlet pupils really spilled 2 streams of light from the eye sockets. Immediately afterwards, Doflamingo's figure was unnaturally fast, and he suddenly pushed Virgo, who was sitting directly opposite him not far away, onto the sofa. Dover! Virgo yelled in horror as he was pressed on the sofa. He could feel that he seemed to be in a very dangerous situation now, and the Doflamingo in front of him was no longer his family and young master, but a more advanced predator. I am the prey. The closer he gets, the more Doflamingo can feel the deliciousness and temptation of that vitality. With just 1 point, as long as a small wound is torn on Vigo's body, he can drain all of Vigo's blood in an instant, and turn Vigo's surging life into his own food. But it was also at this moment that the veins on Doflamingo's forehead bulged, as if 2 wills were fighting in his body, and the scarlet color in his eyes slowly settled down, gradually returning to the original black pupils. The pair of sharp fangs in his mouth quickly returned to their original appearance. Seeing that his young master seems to have regained his senses, Virgo hurriedly asked, Dover, how are you? At this moment, Doflamingo had calmed down his instinctive bloodthirsty desire just now, so he quickly let go of his restraint on Virgo, gasped heavily, and sat back on the sofa again. After about 10 seconds, Doflamingo said with a little emotion, I have heard before that the will of desire resides in devil fruit, especially Zone's devil fruit. In the process of devouring and awakening, it is very likely that there will be an accident. Today I really realized it. At that moment just now, if Doflamingo really couldn't control his will, then he might become a puppet of power, a monster dominated by bloodthirsty desire. Just like the demented jailer beast in the deep-sea prison Impelton, in the process of awakening, he failed to establish a firm will and was defeated by his ability. In the end, he was neither human nor ghost. However, compared to the dangers of Zone devil fruit in these aspects, this kind of changes and problems, in turn, can also help the ability users themselves. Because if you can develop your abilities to the depths, and completely tame or even destroy the will that devil fruit itself entrusts, then it is almost a matter of course to awaken the fruit. It is also for this reason that the number of awakened Zone devil fruit abilities is generally far greater than that of other devil fruit abilities. Awakening is relatively simple, and it is recognized by the sea that the most difficult ability to awaken is Logia. However, some Logia's ability users and related devil fruit research scholars believe that the moment Logia's devil fruit is eaten, it is in the awakening stage. So the advantages of Logia are very likely to include self-awakening. The reason why these scholars say this is because they believe that the almost endless energy attached to the Logia devil fruit ability is the feedback brought by the awakening. How much you can play depends on the quality of the capable person himself. A monster like Huzan can freeze the entire sea with a wave of his hand. Virgo sat up straight and didn't care about what happened just now. In fact, given the relationship between him and Doflamingo, there was no need to care about these things. He asked very curiously, besides the bloodthirsty desire just now, do you feel any changes in yourself? Of course. Doflamingo smiled. The reason why devil fruit is called a treasure in the sea and is pursued by countless people is that one of the important factors is that this thing is like hanging, no hard work, no need to do anything. When you eat the fruit in a moment, you will be able to actively or passively get fruit feedback and get new power. Of course, if you want to make this power stronger, you can't go whoring for nothing, you need to develop the ability yourself. And now, Doflamingo seems to be instinctive, as if he was born knowing it, and he has mastered some basic abilities of Zone, Bat Fruit, Phantasmal Beast, and Vampire form very logically. Just like blood manipulation. Doflamingo stretched out his palm and spread it upwards. Under Virgo's gaze, a surge of fresh blood quickly appeared in his palm, and the blood became more and more, and it melted almost instantly. It was like a red satin, circling around his palm, flowing back and forth. The blood is all Doflamingo's own. As long as he uses his ability, he can directly draw out the blood in his body. At the same time, he can also feel that his hematopoietic ability has reached the level of pervert. Almost instantly, the blood that he drew out of his body has already been filled by the powerful hematopoietic efficiency in his body. The control over the blood is naturally not only for oneself, but for everyone. Just like Doflamingo's instinctive perception before, as long as there is a little wound on Virgo's body and a little bloodline flows out, Doflamingo can directly drain Virgo's blood. Although this ability has not been verified in actual combat, Doflamingo can already feel its threat. High, very high. In the case of opaque intelligence, even if an enemy who doesn't know his ability is much stronger than him, as long as he is accidentally hit with a bleeding wound, Doflamingo is likely to be caught off guard by the opponent. Drain the opponent's blood dry. This is almost a lore that can turn the outcome of the battle. Of course, this is just a guess for Doflamingo at the moment. Whether it has such a high actual combat effect, I really need to find an opponent to try it out. The blood flowed in Doflamingo's hands like red satin for a moment, then turned into a dagger and fell into Doflamingo's palm. You can operate blood mimicry? Virgo raised his brows. That's right. Doflamingo nodded, and then Haki shook in his hand, and the dagger imitated by blood was instantly wrapped by armament Haki, turning into a dark Haki-hardened dagger. Then, Doflamingo made a backhand and stuck the blood on the table. The cut was very smooth, as if he was using a real dagger. Then, Doflamingo released his own Haki hardening, and at the same time dispersed his ability. The blood dagger pierced into the table collapsed instantly, turning into a pool of bloodline, which flowed down along the crack in the table. And before the pool of blood fell on the ground, it seemed to be controlled by something, and it quickly flew back to Doflamingo's palm, kneading into a ball of blood. Doflamingo gently squeezed his palms together, and when he opened them again, the original blood cells had already disappeared. At the same time, Doflamingo is also feeling the changes in his body. When the blood cells were integrated into the body just now, Doflamingo could feel that the blood in his body didn't change in measurement, how much it should be, or how much. But there is a subtle vitality, as if gathered in his own heart, stored in the heart. It was still instinctive, as if he knew it from birth, and Doflamingo had already given the answer in his mind. His heart is his blood pool. Once all the blood he sucks enters his body, it will be transformed into vitality according to its quality and stored in his heart. And he will therefore have one of the basic abilities of vampires, that is high-speed regeneration. When the body is traumatized, the heart will quickly release the stored vitality to restore itself from the injury. At the same time, the stored vitality will also subtly, constantly repair the changes caused by its own metabolism. In other words, as long as Doflamingo sucks blood frequently, he may be able to live for hundreds of years. In the original story, the reason why the Red Earl Beloric Redfield insisted on getting this devil fruit was because the ability of this phantom beast was indeed very powerful, and on the other hand, it was because of this ability that could make by taking the life force of others, he restores his youth and returns to his peak form. After feeling the power, Doflamingo was in a good mood. Because of this kind of power, Doflamingo can almost avoid worries. When fighting, he can adopt very aggressive tactics, such as exchanging injuries for injuries, and exchanging lives for lives. As long as his heart and head are not destroyed, other injuries will no longer be a problem under the premise of having a strong vitality reserve. At the same time, the negative effect of the dark wound was completely erased. As we all know, there is a very big difference between Marines and pirates, that is, elderly pirates rarely maintain their physical fitness at their peak. Take Whitebeard as an example. When he was young, he was known as the strongest man, and he was almost invincible in the world. It is indeed the man who suppressed the entire era for nearly 2 decades after Roger. But even a pirate as strong as Whitebeard, when he gets older, is still full of injuries, always wearing medicine bottles all over his body, and fighting against others. It is still difficult to display his combat effectiveness at his peak. In contrast, the Marine bosses are different. They enjoy complete logistics and medical resources. After the battle, the Marine bosses don't have to run around like pirates, and can enjoy the most high-end recuperation treatment. Therefore, Marines bosses, even after getting old, can still maintain a strong combat effectiveness. Among them, Garp is the representative. He usually eats and drinks nonsense, and is extremely healthy. He is obviously a few years older than Whitebeard, but he doesn't look old at all. In the final analysis, except for the extraordinary talent, it is all well maintained. Now that Doflamingo has also stepped into this rank, it can be said that from now on, his strength will not decline due to age, hidden injuries and other issues. As long as he wants, he can always remain at the peak. After feeling it carefully again, Doflamingo confirmed that some of the basic abilities of inborn knowledge, brought by this phantom beast and vampire-shaped devil fruit are probably these. What kind of effect do you want to play in the future? You have to calm down and develop bit by bit. Speaking of the development of fruit power, it is actually a very ideal thing for demon fruit power. Perhaps, as Dr. Vegapunk said, the manifestation of these abilities is more like wish, desire. As long as it is a little bit related to the concreteness of your ability, it seems that it can be developed. Doflamingo had already planned to eat this devil fruit earlier, so he is not a headless fly. He has a set of mature ideas about the development and direction of his own abilities. Now that the ability has been eaten into the stomach, then these original ideas can also be carried out. Thinking about the next thing, there is really a lot. Regarding the practice of hockey, I have to maintain it. After I go back, I plan to ask Diamandi to enlighten me about the way of swordsmanship. Now, I need to add a fruit ability. Developed. Doflamingo said with a helpless smile. Virgo also laughed when he heard the words, and said, not only that, there will be some things that must be handled and decided by you in the family from time to time. Furfurfur, you are really busy. Doflamingo said with a curled up corner of his mouth. But he knew very well in his heart that when you are busy and can get feedback on improving your various factors, it proves that you are effectively busy and are on the way up. Often stick to it, you can get a lot of money. Having said this, Doflamingo stood up, intending to get the champagne in the wine cabinet and open a bottle for himself, as a celebration of becoming a capable person today. But when he passed by the window of the cabin, the outside sun shone on him, which made him feel a little uncomfortable instinctively. This shocked Doflamingo's heart. Any devil fruit has some side effects more or less. After Doflamingo felt some discomfort from sunlight exposure, he wondered if this was a side effect of his own fruit ability. Don't let me bask in the sun, just set myself on fire, right? Then this fruit ability is too cheating. In order to see how strong the discomfort would be, Doflamingo resisted the uncomfortable feeling and stood in front of the window, facing the sun. At the same time, Doflamingo is also carefully feeling the changes in himself. The sun does bring some discomfort, but this kind of discomfort is far from what he imagined, where the ashes will be wiped out after exposure to the sun, and even his body is not on fire. This discomfort seems to come more from physical instinct and psychology. It's as if some creatures are naturally light-loving, while others are naturally dark-loving. The original Doflamingo didn't have these similarities, but now, he prefers the dark, and he instinctively rejects the sun, that's all. However, after being exposed to the sun for a period of time, Doflamingo could also feel that his physical functions seem to have declined. He's not really affected, but in the sun, because of instinct and psychological factors, Doflamingo looks a bit unmotivated. It's easy to get sleepy in the sun, but in the next second, when a thick cloud drifted past, it blocked the sunlight that was originally shining directly on Doflamingo's body. Doflamingo's drowsy feeling disappeared in an instant, and he became energetic again. West Blue, Wilwick Island. The Flamingo, which Doflamingo was on, was mooring in this port at this time. Today's Doflamingo has some changes from the past. For example, although he is still wearing a black suit and pink flamingo feathers, he looks evil and fancy, but there is an extra black parasol in his hand. Open the umbrella to cover the hot sun on the pier. Not to mention, Doflamingo with an umbrella like this seems to have a more calm and elegant feeling. So, the Capone family doesn't intend to cooperate with us North Blue hillbillies at all? Doflamingo walked on the pier with an umbrella in one hand and a phone in the other, with an evil smile on his lips. He didn't have too many younger brothers with him, only Virgo and Gladius were there, and he didn't bring any cadres with him when he came to West Blue this time. The reason why they stayed on this island was mainly to replenish some resources. The voyage on the sea is like this, stop and go. The younger brothers are busy buying supplies, and Doflamingo is free, so he is going to have a drink or two at the tavern on the island. But when he disembarked, he received a call bug, which was the younger brother he sent to contact the Capone family when he was in Ohara before. Doflamingo wants to use the Capone family's munitions production line to open up sales in North Blue and further expand the Donquixote family's influence and source of wealth in the dark world. This should be regarded as a matter of mutual benefit, but unfortunately, now the news has come back. The Capone family didn't think highly of the Donquixote family at all, so they didn't plan to meet Doflamingo at all, and they couldn't even meet each other, so there was no way to talk about business. My lord, why don't I try again? The younger brother on the opposite side of the phone bug asked after hesitating for a moment. Doflamingo said with a smile, Furfur, no need, let's give up this plan for now, I have a new idea recently. To be honest, Doflamingo doesn't find it annoying to be so slighted. First of all, the Capone family has been entrenched in West Blue for hundreds of years. It is currently one of the 5 major mafia families standing at the top of West Blue, and it is the strongest one among them. It is reasonable for such a veteran mafia family to look down on the North Blue hillbilly, Donquixote family, who only made their fortunes 7 or 8 years ago. After all, Doflamingo can't even completely cover North Blue now. No matter what, he can't reach West Blue. The Capone family doesn't need to give him any face. In addition, the fact that he wanted to cooperate with the Capone family can also be said to be a temporary idea of Doflamingo on the way to Ohara. Naturally, he has a relatively peaceful mind. After hanging up the phone, Virgo asked, it seems that your plan cannot be carried out. No, Doflamingo shook his head very calmly, and then said, "As I said just now, I have a new plan. This morning, guess who called me?" "Who?" Virgo asked curiously. At this time, Doflamingo had already walked to the door of the tavern in the town. He looked at this super large tavern, and instead of answering Virgo, he was a little surprised. "Actually, I just wanted to say that the building, are they all so bold?" Along the way, he has seen quite a few super large buildings, the kind where each door is 20 to 30 meters high. As if hearing his question, a guest who had just walked out of the tavern said with a slightly drunken smile, "If you ask this question, it means that you don't know much about our Wellick Island, right?" As soon as he finished speaking, Gladius, who was following Doflamingo's head, swelled. How could this bastard talk to the young master? Show me some respect. But before Gladius got mad, Doflamingo raised his hand and tapped him on the head, then nodded with a smile. "Yes, I'm ashamed to say, this is my first time to West Blue, and it's also my first time to Wellick Island. Ha ha ha, it doesn't matter. Many people who come here for the first time and don't know much about this island will have the same question as you just now. If you want to explain why the buildings on our island are so huge, you have to chase after about 100 or so. I went there years ago." The guest seemed to be very enthusiastic and explained to Doflamingo. "More than 100 years ago, Elbaf's giant pirates stationed here for nearly 20 years. They seem to have accepted some kind of employment in West Blue, right? We don't know the specific situation, anyway. It is also because of this that the buildings on our island, in order to better serve those giants, began to become big, and later, they gradually formed such characteristics," the guest said. Doflamingo nodded in understanding. "So, is it to serve the giant? Over the past 20 years, it has gradually become a feature of the island, and it has finally been inherited, right?" Just when Doflamingo nodded, the guest said again, "Not to mention, because of the architectural features of our place and the reason that we have received giants, now and then, occasionally there are giants who will come to us. Well, today you are considered lucky, you can open your eyes, go in quickly, there is a giant guy inside, drinking." It's not that Doflamingo has never seen giants. On the contrary, he saw a lot of them when he was a child. There are many celestial dragons on Marie Joy's, and he likes to make some giant slaves. To my cousin Don Quixote Claudius. After simply thanking the kind drinker, Doflamingo put away the black umbrella, and entered the huge tavern with Virgo and others. Sure enough, as soon as I entered, I saw the table in the center of the tavern. It was very huge, even with Doflamingo's 3-meter height, it seemed a bit small. At this time, beside the table, there was a young giant who was sitting more than 10 meters tall, drinking wine by himself. A shield and a long sword were placed beside him, and a warrior's helmet was still on his head. Judging from his attire, he should be a mercenary, right? The Kingdom of Giants Elbaf is known as the strongest country in the world. Although it is not a member country of the world government, it also has a strong international influence. Even the world government very much hopes to be able to cooperate with the Kingdom of Giants. Build friendly relationships. All of this is from the perspective of strength. Basically, every adult giant has a combat power no less than that of the ordinary vice admirals of naval headquarters. Even though vice admiral seems to be placed on a high-end battlefield, it is just a background board that is flicked around by top experts. But once the number accumulates, it is quite terrifying. In this world, most forces, countries, and organizations cannot withstand the impact of hundreds of thousands or millions of vice admiral level combat power, right? Don't say hundreds of thousands, even tens of thousands, they can't bear it. Of course, the vast majority of organizations and forces are unable to satisfy the combat power of tens of thousands of vice admirals. However, Elbaf can do it. This is a racial advantage. Therefore, Elbaf has a strong sense of martial arts. After all, they rely on their powerful force to become a top power. In this environment, many giants in Elbaf will choose the combat profession and become their own development direction. Some of them were marines, some were pirates, and some were mercenaries. And there is no doubt that no matter what they are going to do, they are very popular in the industry. After glancing at it, Doflamingo always felt that the giant looked familiar, that for a while he couldn't remember where the familiar feeling came from. But it doesn't matter, he didn't come to find the giant himself. So they didn't bother about anything. Doflamingo, Virgo and Gladius found an empty wine table and sat down. Let's get down to business. That guy judge contacted me this morning. After sitting down, Doflamingo looked at Virgo and said, "Judge?" Virgo asked in surprise, "Germa's Vinsmoke judge?" "That's right." Doflamingo responded immediately. Another representative of the dark side of North Blue, the Vinsmoke family, reached out to him. That guy hasn't shown his face for 2 or 3 years. If it weren't for seeing Germa's Warhouse running around in North Blue from time to time, and their arms are being sold in the dark world, I would have thought Germa all of them are already dead, Virgo said sarcastically. The main competitor of Donquixote family in North Blue is Germa, that's why Virgo's words are so unpleasant. But in fact, although Germa is well known on the dark side, he doesn't have much reputation on the regular level of North Blue, and is even regarded as a rumor in the story. In the final analysis, it is because Germa has no fixed territory and exists in the form of a warhouse, which is very mysterious. Speaking of Germa, their history is also very long. It is an ancient country that advocates technology and military force. However, it has been declining for more than 100 years. Therefore, when he was young, Judge, who took over the throne of King Germa, determined to revive Germa and dominate North Blue. Judge has a very good scientific research ability since he was a child. He is a very powerful scientist. In order to revive Germa, he traveled abroad and wanted to learn and master more high-end technologies. In this case, he meets Dr. Vegapunk. Later, together with Dr. Vegapunk, he formed the Civilian Illegal Scientist Research Organization, MADS. The characters involved in it are quite powerful, including Quinn, who later became the cadre of the Beasts Pirates 3 Disasters, and the former crew members of the Rocks Pirates Bakingome Stussy and M-Guys Saw Current. At present, MADS is still running, and Vinsmoke Judge contacted Doflamingo this time, which is also related to this matter. The reason why Judge hasn't shown up in the past few years is because he is not in North Blue at all, but in New World. Before that, he joined a scientific research organization called MADS, and has been researching some cutting-edge things, began Doflamingo. Germa itself is a technological powerhouse, so it's not surprising, Virgo said understandingly after ordering some drinks. At the same time, Doflamingo tapped on the menu again, and Gladius, who was about to move, said, "Although I brought you to the tavern, you can only order some non-alcoholic drinks, so as not to affect your growth and development." "My lord, I heard that you have been smoking and drinking since you were 6 years old," Gladius immediately retorted somewhat unwillingly. That's right, Doflamingo was a celestial dragon when he was a child. He had nothing to do all day long, he only knew how to eat, drink and have fun. In addition, he was born rebellious, so he got all these bad habits early on. Doflamingo nodded when he heard the words, and then said, "So I have more say, don't I?" "Gladius, can you still answer like this?" Soon, the bartender brought some drinks up. Ignoring Gladius' sad eyes, Doflamingo picked up the glass, took a sip, and continued. "Judge contacted me this time to ask me for money. I hope we Donquixote family can invest in their MADS research group." Hearing this, Virgo said with some surprise, "According to our analysis of the Germa family's business, the Germa family's arms are still very profitable. Otherwise, we wouldn't even think about robbing them. Their business, Judge, is still short of money? Scientific research is a bottomless pit," Doflamingo said with some emotion. "No matter in what era or in what world, doing scientific research is very economical. What technology do you create without money? Just some high-end scientific research equipment is often worth hundreds of millions or billions of berries. The most cutting-edge ones are even priceless. If you spend tens of billions of berries, they may not be willing to sell them to you. These things are much more valuable than a pirate's head." The MADS team gathered a group of top scientists in the world. They also researched high-end projects, such as bioengineering. The reason why Dr. Vegapunk left his hometown was because he was trapped by money. "I finally found a good comrade Judge with a lot of money, so I did not hesitate to cooperate with him in scientific research." Judge was very happy at first, but after he fell into it, he realized it. This is according to this situation develop. 10 Germas are not enough to sell. However, Judge really couldn't let go of what Vegapunk and his friends were researching, let alone saying that after investing so much, they gave up halfway, and it was in vain, right? Isn't that a waste of money? Therefore, Judge began to rely on his personal connections to continuously attract investment. The last victim was Dufelder, who specialized in loan sharks in the dark world. Dufelder was originally very rich, and he was considered a rich man in the dark world. Later, he even developed into a dark man. One of the emperors in the world, in terms of status, he can sit on an equal footing with Doflamingo, the middleman, in the dark world. Of course, only in the dark world. Dufield and Judge have known each other for a long time. After all, they are both members of the dark world. After being fooled by Judge, they spent a lot of money on MADS, but in the end they didn't get a single hair, and it just didn't work. Therefore, this guy didn't want to be taken advantage of all the time, so he directly withdrew his capital. At the same time, because of Judge's dishonesty, Dufield also launched his own relationship in the dark world and rejected MADS. Now it's all right, Judge can't get funds in New World at all. Even because of funding problems, MADS couldn't continue to hang out in New World, so in the end several of their members discussed and planned to come to North Blue. After all, This is Judge's lair, so it's easier to take care of everything. Because of this, Judge thought of the rapid rise of the Donquixote family in North Blue in the past few years. The Donquixote family is the largest smuggler in North Blue. At the same time, it is also mining, selling black slaves, and doing illegal business in many places in North Blue. It is said that he is very rich. If we can make that Doflamingo limping and invest in their mads, not to mention being able to persist until the results are achieved, but how can they last for another year or two, right? During this period, what if there is a turning point? So in the spirit of giving it a try, Judge took the initiative to contact Doflamingo and boasted about the mads team, as if Doflamingo would be rewarded with huge profits as long as the funds were in place. So you rejected Judge? Virgo asked curiously. No. I said I would think about it for 2 days before giving him an answer, but in fact, when he mentioned this matter, I was ready to agree to it. Doflamingo said with a smile as his eyes flashed brightly. If his guess is correct, originally Doflamingo should have had some intersections with mads during this period, and it is estimated that it has invested some in Judge, right? So later Doflamingo and Guy scatter that guy to get together. But regardless of these, Doflamingo speculates that if there are no accidents, mads will have an accident. Although it has not really produced results until its disbandment, these top scientists have indeed researched some powerful signs. That is to successfully establish the bloodline factor theory and almost open the life design diagram. At a critical moment, this situation was known by the world government, and Marine was immediately dispatched to intervene with the mads team. Vegapunk and Guy were directly arrested to work for the world government and joined Marine's scientific team. Troops up. After Quinn escaped, he went around and became the chief cadre of the Beast's pirates. That guy, Barkin, probably found a place to live in seclusion and started to synthesize cyborg Whitebeard E. Judge returned to when they arrived in Germa, relying on some theoretical breakthroughs in the cloning technology they developed. Germa's combatant soldiers were developed, and bloodline transformation began to give superpowers to their offspring. The estimated time period is within a year and a half, right? So Judge said that the results are about to come out is not really a complete lie. The reason why Doflamingo is going to get involved is because he has his eye on Quinn and Guy, both of whom are talented. If they can be quickly absorbed into the Donquixote family after the collapse of the mads group, his arms business isn't it done? At the same time, Donquixote family can also master some cutting-edge technology. Especially Quinn, who is a technical talent and can play very well. Doflamingo appreciates him very much. So even if it is for the convenience of poaching in the future, Doflamingo is planning to spend money and invest in the mads team first. Soon, Doflamingo gave Virgo an overview of his thoughts. After hearing this, Virgo also felt that there was nothing wrong with his young lord's thoughts. If you master the technology, you will be at the top of the industrial chain. At that time, we don't need to cooperate with the West Blue Mafia, but we can still produce arms continuously and occupy the North Blue market. Doflamingo raised his hand and pushed the sunglasses road. Even, annex the Vinsmoke family. Everyone is from North Blue, don't talk about two different families. I Donquixote Doflamingo, it is reasonable to inherit the kingdom of Germa, right? Speaking of which, Vinsmoke Judge himself has a bit of a Mu Chang plot. In the original story, Doflamingo did not grow to the point where he could convince Judge, or in other words, Doflamingo himself probably did not really want to annex them all. But it's different now. Doflamingo feels that if he wants to become bigger and stronger, he must unite all the strengths of North Blue. In the future, when I become stronger and the Donquixote family rises, there is nothing wrong with taking the Judge and Vinsmoke families as younger brothers. Doflamingo also intends to capture Dressrosa in the future, because Dressrosa's geographical location is very good. Located in a traffic artery of the New World, all kinds of dark businesses can quickly expand to the whole world through the hub of Dressrosa. But the only regret is that Dressrosa's land area is too small. But if this problem is combined with Germa's Warhouse technology, wouldn't it be greatly alleviated? Even Doflamingo has considered the stone fruit that Pika eats now. After the development reaches a certain level, can Pika slowly expand the island area? In particular, Dressrosa is still very close to the northern calm belt of New World. If there is Warhouse technology, with Dressrosa as the core, it is absolutely possible to develop the calm belt. These can quickly accumulate the foundation of Donquixote family, support Doflamingo to become the king of the world, and realize the ambition and ideal of making Don Quixote great again. After discussing these matters with Virgo for a while, Doflamingo stopped talking. Then with the kid Gladius, the three chatted about some miscellaneous trivia and ate trigrams. Just after a few glasses of wine, another group of people walked into the tavern. They were all wearing black suits and top hats, and looked not to be trifled with. And their appearance also made the originally noisy voice in the tavern quickly quiet down. There was no doubt that this was a mafia member, a common man in West Blue, certainly not willing to mess with the local mafia family. The group of mafia members quickly walked in front of the giants. As soon as the leader raised his hand, the younger brother behind him quickly put some boxes on the ground. Herdan, this is your commission. Our boss is very satisfied with your actions this time, and hopes to continue to cooperate with you. This time we will pay 60 million Baileys, the mafia leader said. Doflamingo naturally heard his voice from the side, and at this moment he realized it, and said that the giant looked familiar, so it was Helding. Later, in the Dressrosa event, the giant who stood opposite the Donquixote family, the guy who killed Mahabath. Giants are generally long-lived, with an average lifespan of about 300 years. After more than 20 years, Herding was only 81 years old. Now, this guy is more than 60 years old. According to the concept of giants, he is still a young man. Looking at it now, Helding should be a mercenary, wandering in the sea, training himself, and preparing for the future resurrection of giant soldiers and pirates. This actually made Doflamingo interested, although in Dressrosa, Helding's performance was very ordinary. Let's say it was outstanding, not much outstanding. But if you can train this guy well 20 years in advance, what surprises can Commodore bring to him? Moreover, the giants generally reject devil fruit, advocating their original power. Only a very small number of giants are willing to eat devil fruit. However, this Herding is one of them. He is the kind of giant who pursues power very much. At that time, if we arrange a more powerful devil fruit for him, combined with the superior qualities of the giants, it will be a breeze to become a vice admiral or above in combat power. It's a good seedling. No need. Here I don't feel the possibility of improving my own strength at all. I don't think we need to cooperate anymore. Holding a huge wooden barrel wine glass in his hand, Helding shook his head and said after taking a sip. It is one aspect of him making money as a mercenary, but it is not the main purpose. The main purpose is to be able to temper himself. I have been in West Blue for a while. Indeed, West Blue has some powerful characters. For example, the navy of the country of flowers, especially the 8 Treasure Navy. Their leader Qingzhao, even in New World, is a great man. But how to put it, generally speaking, West Blue is still far behind New World. This time, West Blue has not improved its strength, so it should be regarded as an eye-opener. Helding thought that it was almost time to return to New World. In the final analysis, New World is the paradise for the strong. If you want to keep getting stronger and temper yourself, you still have to go there. Compared with it, it is still a bit far-fetched for Sahai to want to meet outstanding characters. HMPH, Herdan, I'm here on behalf of the Capone family, and I didn't discuss it with you. In West Blue, no one can reject our Capone family. At the same time, Doflamingo laughed. He ignored the mafia, looked at Helding and said, "Hey, big man, are you interested in going back to North Blue with me? What the Capone family can't give you, our Donquixote family I can give you all." Donquixote family. Helding was a little taken aback, as if he had never heard of it. Also at this time, the mafia leader also looked at Doflamingo, and said angrily, "Damn North Blue bastard, in West Blue, there is no." However, before he finished speaking, he heard a bang. I saw Gladius, a little guy, holding a shotgun in his hand, and the muzzle was smoking. It was a shotgun in itself, and it had been carried on Gladius's back before. At the same time, when the kid shot, he added his own ability to it. When the scattered bullets hit someone, they exploded directly. With just one shot, more than a dozen members of the mafia on the opposite side were injured, and the upper body of the leader just now was blasted into pieces. The scene was extremely bloody and brutal. Then, seeing Gladius reloading the gun very silky, at a young age, he said very arrogantly, "When my young master is talking, it's your turn to interrupt." At this moment, the people in the tavern seemed to have just come back to their senses, and they all panicked, crying and running for their lives. The surviving mafia also reacted, and a guy who looked like a small cadre said immediately, "Go out and send a signal to call someone." In addition, there are some mafia, directly pulling out their guns, ready to fight with Doflamingo and others here. However, at this moment, Doflamingo raised his palm, and his pupils under the sunglasses turned scarlet. Everyone on the other side was wounded by Gladius' shot just now. For Doflamingo, it happened to be used to test his ability. The next moment, Doflamingo said softly, "Crimson Harvest." As Doflamingo's voice fell, a huge amount of blood spurted out from the wounds of those people in an instant, as if the aorta had been chopped back and forth dozens of times. In the blink of an eye, these people locked by Doflamingo turned into mummified corpses. There was no blood left in their bodies, and they were all drained. They all fell to the ground and died. Not only the blood in these people's bodies, but also the blood that was shot out by Gladius just now and splashed everywhere, all flowed back into Doflamingo's hands at this time, merged together, and turned into the bloody red surrounding Doflamingo. The ribbon was swaying back and forth. Immediately afterwards, the blood flow surrounding Doflamingo exploded suddenly, turning into a thick blood mist that filled Doflamingo's side, and then Doflamingo quickly took a deep breath, inhaled all of it into the body, transformed it into vitality, and stored it in the heart among. To be honest, this feeling is really pleasant. If the willpower is too weak, I'm afraid I will become a slave to blood, right? After finishing all this, Doflamingo whispered to himself. This feeling of transforming other people's blood and life into surging vitality and inhaling it into one's own body is simple and rude, and at the same time carries that kind of joy and excitement. Physiologically, when a large amount of vitality is injected into the body will be excited and excited. Psychologically, the sense of dominance, conquest, and pleasure brought about by this brutal plundering of the vitality of others will also impact one's own brain. This is why Doflamingo was always reluctant to experiment with this ability when he was on the ship. He was worried that he would be affected by this kind of physical and mental excitement, and he couldn't control it. As soon as he got up, he sucked up all the logging fatigue on the boat. In a blink of an eye, the Donquixote family wiped out a small group of Capone family gangsters. Although there is nothing to brag about, this kind of style of doing what you say and killing you if you disagree is still quite brutal. Comparing Helding completely, are all current mafia families so wild? I used to hear the seniors in the village say that the mafia in West Blue are not the kind of romantic and violent, usually polite. Apparently, Helding mistook the Donquixote family for some North Blue mafia family. After all, apart from the mafia, very few violent organizations call themselves family. At the same time, Doflamingo looked at Helding and grinned at the corner of his mouth. So, how are you thinking? You just said that what the Capone family can't give me, you Donquixote family can give me. Helding looked down at Doflamingo, and then asked in a deep voice. Do you know what I want? How dare you say such a thing, come on. The consequences of deceiving Elbaf fighters are not that simple. Fufurofurfur, Hayarden, didn't you already say this answer when you replied to those miscellaneous fish just now? But even if I didn't hear those words, I can tell that as an Elbaf soldier what you want is great power, overwhelming strength. Right? Doflamingo responded with a smile. Helding did not shy away from such a straightforward statement, but continued. Yes, I want stronger power, I want to become the strongest giant, and I want to restore the glory of the disappeared giant soldier pirate group. Can you give it to me? Maybe try it? Doflamingo raised his brows and said, to be honest, I want to be the king of the world. As the king of the world, it seems reasonable to have the strongest giant race in the world among his partners, right? Hayarding, who had always had a relatively calm expression, became a little sluggish after hearing Doflamingo's bold words of to become the king of the world. The king of the world. You. Helding finally had a smile on his face, looking at Doflamingo with some doubts. Although his words seem to be mocking, Doflamingo can feel that his smile is not the kind of joke that mocks other people's dreams, but a carefree and bold feeling. That's right, if a person has no dreams, what's the difference with a salted fish? Doflamingo shrugged. Ahahahaha, that's right. Hayarding laughed loudly, and continued. Then let me weigh you, whether you are qualified to say such bold words, whether you are qualified to be the strongest in my future partner of giants. As soon as the words fell, Hayarding grabbed the giant sword he had placed on the table, without adding any extra power, just with the tyrannical brute force of the giants, he slashed directly at Doflamingo. Although Doflamingo was handsome, cool, and unrestrained when he killed a lot of miscellaneous fish in a flash. But at this moment, Helding still wants to test it out with his own hands. As a warrior of Elbaf, he will not be attached to someone weaker than himself. It was also at this moment when Heldingo held the sword and slashed, Doflamingo's figure also changed rapidly. He didn't plan to use any fancy abilities to deal with Helding's attack. Since you are most confident in strength, then weigh me in this strength. The strength of Doflamingo itself is not bad, after all, in the original story, he can be mixed into the level of 7 warlords of the sea. Although compared with the top monsters in the sea, he is still inferior, but among the common people, Doflamingo is undoubtedly talented and has excellent physical fitness. Coupled with the fact that he has been diligently cultivating for many years, his own strength growth is still very impressive. The last point is that he is no longer a string fruit ability user, but a zone phantom beast ability user. The most basic change for any ability user born in zone is a significant improvement in physical fitness. No matter what kind of breed, even if you are a wild dog, your physical fitness will improve in terms of strength, endurance, resilience, physical strength, etc. was raised a bit. What's more, Doflamingo is the top phantom beast ability in zone. In an instant, a pair of demonic black bat wings exploded behind Doflamingo. There was a scarlet glow around the pair of bat wings. Doflamingo is a little over 3 meters tall, and with this pair of bat wings spread out, it feels nearly 7 meters, which makes his aura suddenly pulled to the top, giving people a strong oppressive force. Not only that, Doflamingo's eyes also became extremely scarlet, and strands of blood-colored streamer continued to overflow from the corners of his eyes, turning into dots and blowing away with the wind. As a Zone Phantom vampire-capable user, Doflamingo should have the ability to transform into a vampire. However, compared with the great contrast of other Zone ability users, Doflamingo's beast form does not actually have that kind of drastic change. It's like Kaido turned into a blue dragon, like Jack turned into a mammoth. His form is still very similar to that of a human being, except for the addition of a pair of bat wings with strong deterrence, and some subtle changes in his body, such as nails becoming sharper and tiger teeth turning into fangs. So Doflamingo thinks that his ability should not be classified into the Bat Fruit series. In terms of form, it should be classified as a special ability of human fruit, just like Sengoku. It seems more appropriate. It was too late and then too fast. Doflamingo's transformation was only a moment, and the next moment, a long sword was suddenly condensed with blood in his hand. Haki hardened it, and then hit Heldingo's /go up. When the two weapons collided together, a rapid torrent erupted. This was the impact of a force confrontation. Doflamingo's height was not dominant, so he was at the bottom of the fight. Therefore, facing Heldingo from top to bottom when he slashed, the ground under his feet was directly shattered into a cobweb-like appearance. Heerding was also a little surprised at this time, although he didn't use all his strength. Yes, Heerding's pure strength can be said to be very powerful, very top-notch, and talented for the entire giant race of. In the state of going all out, Helding was able to hit a punch with a guaranteed impact of 10,000 tons. In the original story, he was in Dressrosa and knocked out the 10,000-ton Mahabasi. Note that he was knocked into the air, not blocked, and it flew hundreds of meters. To knock Mahabas, who weighed at least 10,000 tons at that time, into the air, Heerden would have to have a strength of 20,000 to 30,000 tons. What is the concept of 20,000 to 30,000 tons? To use an analogy, the average small aircraft carrier is almost at this level. In other words, Helding should be able to use brute force to lift the aircraft carrier in the extreme state. When Helding made his move, Doflamingo actually didn't think of this at all, otherwise, he probably wouldn't simply want to fight Heldingo in terms of strength. It can be said that only in terms of strength, there are not many people in this sea that can fight Helding. Maybe monsters like Charlotte Linlin, who is born with supernatural power, can be regarded as sure winners. But in the sea, strength is never calculated by strength, otherwise, everyone will sit down together, shake their wrists, and the final winner will be directly elected as the world's strongest, and it will be over. Later, Giza's Badgers of the Blackbeard Pirates was Paramecia's power fruit-capable person. He could pull up mountains and throw them out. His power was magical, but when it was time to be beaten, he still had to suffer beat. Therefore, although Heerding's power is very strong, it seems that this guy has not completely transformed this natural advantage into strength after more than 20 years. Although he did not use all his strength, Doflamingo blocked his own slash, which surprised Heldingo, but he did not exert all his strength. After a brief stalemate, he withdrew his offensive. "What's your name?" Helding asked. Doflamingo grinned at the corner of his mouth, showing his iconic smile, and then said, "Donquixote Doflamingo. If you want to join us, you should call him young master," Gladius added immediately. Hearing what Gladius said, Heerden was silent for a moment and then said, "Your strength is indeed very strong, but if you want me to submit to you, join this so-called Donquixote family, and call you, young master. What do you want?" The strength shown is not enough. "What kind of strength is enough?" Doflamingo asked calmly. "At least, you must be able to defeat me," Helding said without hesitation. He didn't underestimate Doflamingo, but the young Heerding has only come out of Elbaf not long ago. In fact, he has never encountered any decent opponents since he went to sea. The talent of strength really made Helding a little arrogant. Otherwise, how dare he say that he wants to be the strongest giant? It turned out that when he said that, Doflamingo just laughed. Foo-fur-fur-fur-fur-fur. "Helding, don't you think you are really strong? Just because of your own strength?" Doflamingo asked with a big smile. "Are you insulting me?" Insulting an Elbaf soldier? Helding was furious instinctively when he heard this. "No, I just want you to understand some simple facts. Since you don't agree, then try it and be prepared. Maybe you are much stronger than me in terms of strength, but just in terms of strength, it may only take a moment for me to defeat you." Doflamingo waved his hand and said very calmly. Hayarding looked at the confident Doflamingo. His eyes gradually became serious, and he also picked up the shield on the other side of the table, and changed into a gesture of holding a sword in one hand and a shield in the other. Then, he said in a deep voice, Don Quixote Doflamingo, if you can't do what you said, then for the glory of Elbaf, I will kill you here. Fooferfer, needless to say, are you ready? Doflamingo asked. Hayarding hit his shield with the huge sword in his hand, and then said, come on, let me see, how strong is your so-called strength? The moment his words fell, the bat wings behind Doflamingo flapped violently, and the strong air current quickly rolled up Doflamingo, leading him to fly towards Heldingo's chest. Just as Doflamingo estimated before, this devil fruit is born with the ability to fly. When approaching Helding's chest height, Doflamingo didn't intend to make any fancy postures, but simply put on a straight punch posture. At the same time, a pitch-black armament hockey hangs from his arms and fists. Looking at this scene, Hayarding felt relieved, thinking that the strength that the North Blue people think is powerful, as this armament hockey? Do you think I'm some kind of country bumpkin from all over the world? Haven't seen hockey? I'm from Elbaf in the New World, but it's a bit strange to say that the giants of Elbaf generally haven't practiced hockey, perhaps because most of the opponents they have encountered, even if they use the power of hockey, they just become stronger. Hard, for some, nothing more intense. So much so that the giant race of Elbaf advocates pure power even more. Or maybe it's because the giants themselves are more old-fashioned. The old-school giants would rather die than eat devil fruit. On the way out of New World before, Helding has not seen any hockey owners, and even fought against some people who know hockey. But relying on his physical fitness advantage, he always wins every battle. Therefore, seeing Doflamingo pull out a hockey, he felt a little contemptuous in his heart, thinking that if this is what Doflamingo considers to be a powerful force, then today, for the glory of the Elbaf warrior, he, an arrogant man, must be killed. Without thinking too much, Helding directly crossed his shield and long sword in front of his chest, wanting to use this posture to receive Doflamingo's blow first, and then make a defensive counterattack. He's done this before, but in the next instant, everything changed. It was true that Helding's shield blocked Doflamingo's fist, but then, an invisible force directly penetrated the thick shield and hit Heldingo hard on the chest. Visible to the naked eye, a section of his chest cavity collapsed, as if part of the ribs in his chest had been broken. Then, Hayarding felt that force explode in his body, shaking his internal organs to be in pain. Then, a mouthful of dirty blood was sprayed directly from Helding's mouth. The tall giant, unable to withstand the pressure, knelt down on the ground on one knee. At the same time, Doflamingo's figure landed on his shoulder, and he said softly, I haven't used much force yet. Hayarding. Helding clutched his chest, and asked in an unbelievable tone, what kind of power is this? Hockey. Doflamingo had already returned to his normal human form, raised his hand and stroked his chin, and said calmly. Hockey. No. I'm from the New World. I've seen hockey. Hockey isn't like that. Halden retorted instinctively. I think, for a young giant like you, I'm afraid you haven't seen a real strong man. Hockey, you are so strong. If I hit your heart just now, then you are dead now. Doflamingo smiled wickedly. In fact, it's not just using the power of armament hockey. Doflamingo wants to kill Helding in a flash. There are quite a few ways, but it's not necessary. It seems that hockey can show his calmness better, so he used it. Before Helding could speak, Doflamingo continued. Then, now is the time to tell me your answer, Helding. If I join your Don Quixote family, you will teach me this power, right? Helding asked. Of course, it's not just this kind of power. If you can accept it, I can even find a powerful devil fruit to make you a capable person. Doflamingo said without hesitation. The treatment can be very high, but at the same time, Doflamingo has already decided that if Helding is unwilling, he can only kill him here. After all, the information must be kept secret. His ability is very aggressive. Under the condition of confidential information, even if he meets Marine Admiral like Garp, Sengoku, and Zephyr, he will dare to go up and fight. Because of his strong vitality, it is not easy to be killed directly, and his ability is strange. Maybe after a wound, there will be a big harvest. However, it is clear that from Helding's words, there is a high probability that he is willing to join the Don Quixote family. After all, his main purpose of going to sea is to become stronger. As for the future about the giant soldier pirates, we can wait until Doflamingo is dead. Anyway, if he wants to be loyal, he will only be loyal to Doflamingo. At this time, Hayarding was thinking in his heart, after Doflamingo got old and died, he would leave the Don Quixote family again, and this friendship would be considered complete. It is also reasonable to form the Giant Soldier Pirate Group and make the Giant Soldier Pirate Group great again. Well, anyway, our giants can live at least 300 years. I am only 60 this year, and I will give Doflamingo another 100 years. When he dies, I will only be 116, which happens to be the prime of life, perfect. Doflamingo didn't know the small calculations in Helding's mind. Otherwise he would really laugh out loud. Just kidding. I don't know how many years I can live now. Maybe it's not impossible to live forever. My name is Helding, and I come from Elbaf, the hometown of warriors. I swear here that while the Donquixote family teaches me strength, I will be loyal to the Donquixote family. With a sharp sword in my hand, I will slay powerful enemies for you. A strong shield in my hand will serve you. You resist the arrows in the back, and may the glory of the god of war be with Don Quixote, my young lord, Don Quixote Doflamingo. Helding pressed his fist to his heart and swore softly. This is the etiquette when Elbaf warriors swear allegiance to a certain power. And these warriors who regard glory as their lives will use their lives to defend their oaths. At the port of Verlick Island, Doflamingo was holding his arms on his chest, rubbing his chin thoughtfully with one hand, and looking at the flamingo moored in the bay not far away. It's been 7 years since the Flamingo launched, and it's Doflamingo's first ship since the establishment of the Don Quixote family. In terms of size, it is a small 3-masted sailing ship, but in terms of performance, it is still very good. In the past, wherever Doflamingo went, they sat on it and said they had feelings, and they really did. But it has been a long time, and the Flamingo is indeed a bit old. In recent years, the ship technology has also improved. The Flamingo was not the most high-end ship type back then. Looking at it now, it is indeed a lot behind. Number. But these are not important. Doflamingo can accept and endure, but. Thinking of this, Doflamingo turned his head and looked at the big man Helding who was following him at this time. This guy stands 22 meters tall, and the entire flamingo is only more than 60 meters long. There is no place for Helding to stay on it, let alone carry him out to sea. As a combatant of the Don Quixote family, Heldingo will definitely take him to fight all over the world in the future. How embarrassing is it that the ship cannot accommodate him? Therefore, the flamingo, perhaps after returning to North Blue this time, will withdraw from the stage of history. What are you thinking about, Dover? Virgo asked. I'm thinking, people, if they can't keep up with the times, they will be eliminated, and the same goes for ships. Doflamingo said softly. Fortunately, Helding had his own ship this time, which he used when he left Elbaf. It was a standard giant sailing ship common to giants. However, it seems that Helding has been wandering on the sea for a long time, and Helding does not know how to repair the ship. The current state is not very good, and it is in tatters. Doflamingo only hopes that it can bring Helding back to the North Blue, otherwise you have to buy a suitable boat on the road, which is too troublesome. Today Doflamingo did not board the Flamingo, but sent Gladius to follow the Flamingo, and he and Virgo both boarded Helding's Sea Warrior. After all, I just accepted him as a younger brother yesterday, and we are not allowed to contact each other along the way. The two parties should also deepen their mutual understanding. This is good for everyone. Soon, one big and one small, the two ships left the port and headed towards the port of Marie Joy's West Blue. Doflamingo was returning to North Blue from Marie Joy's just as he had come. Sitting on the deck of this huge sailboat, Doflamingo was reading a newspaper that Virgo had just bought from Newsbird. On the side, Virgo was holding a small notebook and was reading to Helding word by word. Helding was not idle either, holding a pen in one hand and a notebook adapted to the giants in the other, and recorded all of Virgo's words. That's right. At this time Virgo and Helding sorted out the knowledge points of hockey's practice, from beginner to grandmaster. It's a good time for Helding, as the Don Quixote family's practice knowledge has been updated. It's no longer an ordinary armament hockey, and it even has advanced knowledge, so he can enjoy it directly. However, it is very troublesome for Helding to look at the ordinary books of human beings, and he even said that he can't read them at all, so he needs the help of Virgo to transform them. When Helding was writing, Virgo also took the time to ask, "How is it? Is there any big news these 2 days?" "Yes." Doflamingo nodded immediately, and then said, "Shaki, who has been missing for more than a month after the Battle of Advor, has reappeared in New World and gave the treasure captain John who attacked part of his territory to him. Killed. Tisk, Shaki is so cruel, obviously that John was also his companion before. Is it something about the Rocks pirate period? I heard that the people of the Rocks pirates all came together for a certain purpose. They often fight each other, and there is no such thing as companionship," Virgo said. "That's right, and Shaki himself is not a person who can talk about these friendships." Doflamingo grinned. "What kind of camaraderie would an ambitious hero like Shaki have with you? He is a typical character who would rather teach me to blame the world and don't teach the world to blame me. I'm afraid in this life, that is to Roger alone, it can be said that he has a deep-seated love, and he doesn't care about the rest. In the newspaper in Doflamingo's hand, there is also a photo of Shiki taken from a distance. Although it is not very clear, it can be seen vaguely that there is indeed a stuck rudder on Shiki's head. It can be said that the failure of the Edwall naval battle and the destruction of the fleet were not fundamental damage to Shiki. With Shiki's prestige in the New World and his status in the pirate industry, as long as he doesn't die, he can pull up a large fleet again at any time. New World, no, in the whole world, there are not too many pirates who want to join Shiki. In the original plan, if it wasn't for the advanced knowledge about hockey obtained from Ohara, Doflamingo had seriously considered and analyzed whether he wanted to go to New World and seek refuge with Shiki. Because obviously, during the time after the Battle of Edwall and before Roger was executed, Shiki did pull out another fleet. Perhaps due to time factors, his power has not yet returned to its peak, but it can also be obtained. You know, at this stage, Shiki can be said to be thirsty for talents. He must restore his power as soon as possible in order to stabilize his position as the pirate overlord, and defeat all the careerists who are now trying to challenge his position. So Doflamingo thinks that at this point in time, if he is in New World, there is a high probability that he can become Shiki's younger brother. At that time, he will perform well, let alone learn relevant hockey knowledge from Shiki, and maybe he can inherit Feikonghai in the future. What about the thieves? Well, thinking about it this way, it seems quite exciting. Closer to home, the defeat in the Advor Sea area and the sinking of the fleet are not a problem. The most serious problem for Shiki now is the rudder on his head. I don't know if it's because of the rudder, which made his character more violent, irritable, extreme and aggressive, so that after the news of Roger's arrest spread, this guy had a brainstorm and went to single-handedly challenge naval headquarters. Send yourself into Imperdon. In addition, this rudder also greatly affects Shiki's strength. Other people's hockey is getting stronger and stronger, because hockey is a kind of hard work, which is accumulated continuously, but Shiki is good. Hockey will continue to degenerate in the next 2 decades, so that it can't be used at all. Killed directly by the Straw Hat Pirates. A generation of heroes ended up like this. Thinking about Doflamingo still feels a little embarrassing. But after feeling emotional for a while, Doflamingo was stunned again. No, I'm sorry, in the original story, I was also the villain who was wiped out by the Straw Hat. Do it. The young don't work hard, the boss is violently hammered. In order not to be killed by Wong Luffy in the future, I still have to work hard now. In the newspaper, besides the news about Shiki, there is also news about another protagonist of the Edvor naval battle, that is, information about Roger and the Roger Pirates. It is reported that more than half a month ago, the Roger Pirates bravely broke into Toto Land Wan Guo and sneaked into Cake Island. It seemed that they stole something from Big Mom Charlotte Linlin's castle, so that Charlotte Linlin was furious. The Roger Pirates were hunted down in the waters of the island for 7 days and 7 nights. To be honest, the strength of the Roger Pirates is far superior to the current Big Mom Pirates, but judging from the fact that they have been running away and did not face Charlotte Linlin head on, we can basically know that Roger's body is indeed terminally ill. Hands-on is best. Secondly, his time, I'm afraid it is really running out. Roger Pirates don't want to continue to waste time, fight with others, just want to find Raftel before Roger dies. Soon, soon. Doflamingo murmured softly. His gaze was on the date stamp in the upper right corner of the newspaper, Sea Circle Calendar. November 1498. The news in the newspaper did not indicate what the Roger Pirates stole from Charlotte Linlin. Perhaps the intelligence capabilities of the News of the World newspaper failed to find out, or due to various factors, this point was concealed. But Doflamingo knows that what the Roger Pirates stole from Charlotte Linlin is a rubbing of the last of the 4 signpost history texts they are missing. In other words, the Roger Pirates have collected all the historical texts that can point to the location of Raftel and obtained all the information. Now, just wait and give them a little more time, the Roger Pirates will conquer the entire Grand Line. At this time, Megatron New World's Golden Roger will also become the first One Piece in history. One Piece Gold D Roger. That's why Doflamingo murmured softly, soon. Just when Doflamingo was thinking about these things, Helding asked, I heard from you yesterday that our Donquixote family will consider changing careers to become pirates in the future. Is this serious? Do you have any repulsion towards pirates? Virgo asked curiously. While writing, Hayarding said without hesitation, how is it possible? It's not something I should hide from you. In fact, one of my goals when I go to sea is to become a powerful pirate. The giant soldier pirates of the 4 seas are resurrected. Giant soldiers pirates. Ah, it's the pirates of your giants, right? Virgo thought for a while, then came to his senses. That's right. But it was about 80 years ago. Before I was born, Dori Senpei and Brogi Senpei disappeared at sea. and the giant soldier pirates were defeated by Marine later. If it wasn't for the nuns with the help of the Carmelites, the members of the giant pirates of that generation may all be doomed, and since then, we, Elbaf, have reached an agreement with Marine to send some willing giants to join Marine. Halding said with emotion said. Carmelite, the nun known as the Holy Mother by the world, appears to be a good person, but is actually a human trafficker. Charlotte Linlin was adopted by her back then. If nothing else happened, Charlotte Linlin would be some kind of Marine Admiral or CP0's bestseller by now. After all, the Carmelites almost sold Charlotte Linlin to the government of the world back then, but her death was a bit of a coincidence, and then the matter died down. So far, the world still thinks that the Carmelites are good people, and the same is true of the giants. It has been so many years, and Doflamingo was not even born at that time, so it is meaningless to say more now, so Doflamingo did not meddle in revealing the true colors of the Carmelites, let alone. He has no evidence, and it has nothing to do with him. But regarding the giant soldiers pirates, Doflamingo looked at Helding very casually and said, "You guys from the giant soldiers pirates, there are 2 guarding the gate at Eni's lobby, the island that never sleeps. As for Blue Ogre Dory with Red Ogre Brogy." Hayarden suddenly heard Doflamingo mention these things, and he was a little confused. After he reacted, he quickly asked, "Young master, do you know the news about the members of the giant soldier pirates? Do you know the news about Senior Dory and Senior Brogy? Aren't I just talking?" Doflamingo rolled his eyes at Heldingo and asked. "Where are they?" Helding asked excitedly. "Blue Ogre and Red Ogre are in the first half of the Grand Line, in prehistoric island Little Garden not too far from Alabasta, the oldest country of mankind," Doflamingo said calmly. "Little Garden." Helding repeated twice excitedly, and then asked, "Young master, what are they doing in Little Garden? Are they trapped there, or are they imprisoned by someone?" "No, not really, the 2 of them have been dueling for almost 80 years, Doflamingo said with some amusement. "Ah? A duel?" Hayarding was also a little confused. "Have you been fighting for 80 years? So persistent." Soon, Doflamingo told Hayarding about the situation of these 2 guys, and Hayarding was very moved after hearing it. "Our Elbaf fighters have always regarded honor as their life, and the 2 seniors probably won't give up until the winner is truly determined." Helding shook his head and said helplessly. But after a pause, Helding said again, "Young master, if there is a chance, I would like to go to Little Garden." "What are you going to do?" Doflamingo raised his eyebrows and asked. "Seniors Dory and Brogy are the captains of the previous generation of giant armor pirates. If I can get their approval, I can recruit our giant partners and form the giant armor pirates again," Helding said immediately. But soon, Helding added, "Of course, young master, don't get me wrong, I will keep my oath, so until you die, I will always be loyal to the Donquixote family, but young master, you must also don't think I'm being too blunt, to be honest, as long as we giants don't die in battle with glory, we can live for at least 300 years. I am only 60 this year. 100 years later, I will be in my prime, so, young master, do you understand?" Hearing this, Virgo couldn't help laughing and said, "Ha ha 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 ha, I've heard that the giants are very upright, and now it seems that it is true. You are the first person to join our Donquixote family 2 days ago. Have you already started to think about what will happen after Dover's death?" Ha 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 ha. Doflamingo was also amused by Heldingo's speech, and couldn't help but collect the newspaper. "Fufuro furfur, Heldingo. How should I put it? I hope that after 100 years, you can really abide by this oath." "Don't worry, young master, I will definitely attend your funeral before leaving," Helding said very justly. "I hope." Doflamingo didn't refute anything, just a little amused. There is no need to break Hayarding's fantasy at such a time and tell him that he is probably alive, that would be too cruel. Moreover, the relationship between the 2 parties is not particularly in place now. Let's wait until later. What should be known, Hayarding will naturally know in the future. Many things need not be explained thoroughly. However, Halding, even if I'm not dead yet, after you meet Blue Ogre and Red Ogre, you can still recruit your clansmen. Among other things, I will definitely not treat them badly, and at the same time, treat them as. How do you feel about the early stages of rebuilding the giant pirates?" Doflamingo asked with a smile. Halding rubbed his chin, thought for a while and said, "It's not impossible, I will try it. I have some friends in the giant family. But they may not be willing to join forces other than the giant pirates." "It's okay, the Wisher will take the bait." Doflamingo waved his hand. "Moreover, after the Donquixote family grows stronger, it may not be impossible to spread its branches and leaves. Just like the Straw Hats, it is not impossible for the giant pirates to gather under the banner of the Donquixote family." After talking for a while about related things, Hayarding asked very curiously, "Master, how do you know these secrets?" What Eni's lobby looks at the giants at the gate, and the giants in Little Garden. It's not that Elbaf hasn't searched for them all these years, but he really hasn't found any news. How did Doflamingo know so clearly? But after Hayarding finished speaking, he noticed that Virgo's expression changed slightly, as if he was hesitant. Did I say something wrong? But looking at the expression and state of my young master, it seems that there is nothing wrong with it. At this moment, Doflamingo said softly, "It's nothing, because I used to be celestial dragons, so I happen to know a little more, that's all." "Oh, that's how it is. You used to be celestial dragons." I just said. "Haha." Helding said carelessly, but as soon as the words fell, he was completely stunned. "Wait? Celestial dragons? The nobles of the world on Marie Joy's?" Helding was stunned. "Why, don't I look like that?" Doflamingo smiled evilly. North Blue Cervantes Island. This is the base camp of the Donquixote family in North Blue. It was originally a subsidiary island of the Emerald Principality, but it is relatively remote and not within the main routes of North Blue, so it is relatively poor. For some reason, the Donquixote family took a fancy to this place, so they bribed the officials of the Emerald Principality and sold the island to the Donquixote family cheaply. In the next few years, the Donquixote family carried out an illegal business on the island, turning it into North Blue's largest smuggling site. In the first 2 years, some people even called it North Blue's second Mignon. Don't take it as a good word. Mignon Island is notorious in North Blue. There is one on the island. It can be said that they are all bad species. If you catch a wild dog by the roadside, you may have eaten human flesh. At least before the rise of Cervantes, Mignon Island was North Blue's largest, most complete, and most chaotic lawless zone, the territory of the Dark World. Now, Mignon Island is still the same, but Cervantes is more or less coming from behind. The difference from Mignon Island is that although Cervantes is dark and evil, and has gathered a large number of outlaws, villains, and bad species, here, there is its own order, which is the order of the Donquixote family. The island is not completely bad, there are still a large number of civilians, and relying on the economy brought about by the prosperity of the dark business on the island, the living environment of these civilians may be distorted, but they are very rich. At the same time, the island has a large number of luxury places and entertainment facilities. These places are strictly protected, and ordinary people cannot step in at all. These places are used by the Donquixote family to win over North Blue's dignitaries. From time to time, in the bay port of Cervantes, you can see the boat of a certain North Blue nobleman. Here, legal and illegal, as long as you want to play, you can find it. The reason why Donquixote family was able to develop rapidly in North Blue, Black and White, is to rely on these interests and intricate relationship networks. It can almost be said that in North Blue, there are things that the king cannot do, but there is no door that the Donquixote family cannot open. Donquixote family is gradually monopolizing the role of middleman. When someone seeks help from Donquixote family will not leave the event in person, but will charge a fee. The higher the price you pay, the more Donquixote family will look for key people in this matter and introduce you to the relationship. Whether the matter can be resolved in the end depends on your ability. Don't underestimate the introduction of this kind of relationship. Facts have proved that in the period of feudal aristocracy where the information was relatively lagging and the social system basically had no civil rights, without a strong enough relationship, you couldn't even enter the door of other people's house. It's even more impossible to get things done. At the port of Cervantes at this time, the long-lost Flamingo was moored here, and the sea warrior that was about to sink was accompanying it. But fortunately, Hayarding was lucky enough to drive his broken ship to Cervantes. That's the giant family, right? I haven't seen it for 2 or 3 years. A small gang leader who was smoking a cigarette on the pier said with a little surprise after watching Hayarding get off the boat from a distance. But it's just that I haven't seen it for 2 or 3 years. This shows that from time to time, there will still be giants walking in the dark world who come to Cervantes. The giants themselves like to be mercenaries, and the mercenary industry can be said to be closely integrated with the dark world, which is reasonable. Don't mind your own business. Didn't you see that guy came back with the young master's boat? Maybe in a few days, the Donquixote family will have a new cadre, another gang leader said. Cervantes is the stronghold of the Donquixote family, but not all the residents are members of the Donquixote family. For example, the gangs on the pier all have their own factions. The only thing in common is that they give the Donquixote family every year. Only by paying a large amount of tribute can we continue to survive here in the coming year, otherwise we will be wiped out by the Donquixote family. However, like the members of the Donquixote family, almost everyone on the island, when they call Doflamingo, will call him young master to show respect. At the same time, these villains who are struggling in the dark quagmire all want to join the Donquixote family and become a member of Don Quixote. At least in Cervantes, the members of Don Quixote are so superior. Even if he is a boy who does odd jobs for Doflamingo, as long as he has the status of a member of the Don Quixote family, in Cervantes, no outsider would dare to touch him casually. Doflamingo took a deep breath on the port. Feeling the familiar feeling, he couldn't help laughing and said, "F you furfur, the smell of villains and bastards blowing in the wind is really pleasant. Why can't I smell it?" Hayarding took 2 breaths of air on purpose, and didn't feel any change. Virgo also came here at this time, and said with a smile, "When you hang out with us villains for a few more years, you will probably be able to smell it." To judge whether a person is good or not, Virgo is not sure, but to judge whether a person is bad or not, with his years of experience, it can be said that he can see right into the bone at a glance. This is also the breath of the so-called villains and bastards in their mouths. There are so many bastards on the island, so when you get off the boat, you can feel the difference. Let's go, Hayarding, go and have a look at some good devil fruits that our Don Quixote family has accumulated over the years. If you are interested, you can take them and eat them. If not, we can look for them again. When you swear allegiance to me and call me young master, you are already a member of our Don Quixote family. You can be said to be my blood brother of Doflamingo, so don't be cautious, as long as I can open to you. Doflamingo said very grandly. They all talk about racial equality, and even the government of the world is talking about this kind of politically correct thing, and even legislated to protect it. But actually, Marie-Joy still has a large number of slaves, and the Murlocs and mermaids of the Fishmen Island are regarded as fish. It can be seen that discrimination is still being discriminated against. The same is true for Doflamingo. Heldingo is a giant race, so they regard the oath and the honor of the warrior as more valuable than their own lives. Therefore, after Doflamingo took the oath, Doflamingo trusted him so easily. For other races, he may not be like this. In particular, he was still selling Nico in North Blue. In Cervantes' large manor, there are also many black guys who are planting cotton in the fields. How should I put it? Doflamingo has his own set of racial viewpoints, which have nothing to do with equality and inequality. It all depends on his personal mentality. Come to think of it, this is real freedom, right? In this way, I feel that I am really a pirate. Hayarding is also quite straightforward. When Doflamingo said this, he nodded happily and said, "Then go and have a look, young master." A few people walked out of the port, and soon, members of the Don Quixote family came to greet them, but Doflamingo didn't care about this at all, but took out his phone bug and dialed out. After a while, the phone call was picked up, and a man with a thick voice spoke first. "How is it, Mr. Doflamingo? Have you considered it?" "Fooferfer, Your Excellency Judge, after careful discussions with family members, I decided to invest in the MADS scientific research organization you mentioned, as a contribution to North Blue and to the world's technology." Doflamingo smiled wickedly. "That's right, the guy over there with the phone bug is Judge." Upon hearing this, Judge's tone brightened, and he said happily, "Your Excellency Doflamingo, believe me, this will be the right decision, and your investment will be rewarded unparalleled. It doesn't pay back, anyway, what Judge said doesn't count. Doflamingo thinks that this kind of thing must be decided by himself. Anyway, no matter whether Mads goes bankrupt or not, he will get this investment from Germa sooner or later, back. Well, I'm a Don Quixote family, and I've never lost money in business. Miguel's castle is a castle belonging to the cadres of the Don Quixote family on Cervantes. Only members of the Don Quixote family can enter this castle, which belongs to the ruling center of Cervantes. Doflamingo lives here. Fortunately, there was no shortage of money back then, and when the castle was built, it was built in the direction of tallness, so Hayarding would not be unable to get in. Jorah. Well, the artistic aunt from the Don Quixote family. She is the designer of this castle. Although she usually makes her art absurd, she is much more reliable when it comes to the young master Doflamingo. Therefore, the design of the castle is very good. Even when Jorah was designing the castle, he also considered that the young master might have giants as subordinates in the future, so in the castle, several sets of giants were specially designed. A residence in style. Not only that, but there are also small people, and there is also an underground river connected to the island, which can directly reach the Murlocs in the bay, and the manor in the mermaid castle. How should I put it? Jorah may not be good at fighting, but it is still necessary to do these things. Okay. The work she is in charge of now is the smuggling business of art goods in the dark world of Don Quixote family. Don't underestimate this. Jola's annual turnover is among the best in the Don Quixote family. One can imagine how profitable this art product is. After all, the buyers are wealthy merchants and aristocrats, and the profits are really big. Not long after entering the castle, Doflamingo met Senor and Lao Ji in the corridor. Senor is in his 20s, young and handsome, in a black suit, very elegant. According to Lao Ji, he is 48 this year. Although he is not young, he is not as old as Dressrosa later. On the contrary, he looked like a strong middle-aged man. After seeing Doflamingo, the two stopped and greeted each other. "My lord." Lao Ji called out. "Dover." Senor smiled. "I haven't seen you for more than half a year. I really miss you, Senor Rao." Doflamingo also chatted with them with a smile. After a few pleasantries, Doflamingo said, "Senor, has the family gained any new devil fruits in the past half a year?" "This is Halding, a warrior from Elbaf. He swore allegiance to me, and he will be a member of our Donquixote family from now on. Members, you have to get along well." Halding greeted them warmly and chatted about devil fruit. Doflamingo said to Lao Ji, "Speaking of it, Lao, you told me before that your boxing technique can store vitality, and then explode when needed, so as to achieve an overall increase in physical fitness and use it to cope with normal conditions, a powerful enemy that cannot be defeated." Doflamingo directly referred to Lao Ji as Lao, which is much more convenient. Lao Ji nodded immediately after hearing this, and then said, "But my lord, although I am practicing Diwang boxing, in essence, it is not boxing as the core, but a kind of Qigong technique. Qi is the core." Lao Ji, in the entire Donquixote family, belongs to the kind that is more able to fight, and it can be said that his strength is on the front line. When he was in Dressrosa, he defeated the pillar of the 8 treasures navy, the big pirate Qingzhao, with a bounty of 500 million baileys, from the front, almost relatively easily. Don't say that Qingzhao is old and his strength is not very good. Lao Ji was not young at that time. As for Lao Kai, his son who lost to Qingzhao later, he said it was because he was getting older, which was about the same. Qigong is also a school of practice, and it is classified as fighting skills. Speaking of it, although it is rare, it is not a particularly unusual thing. Judging from Doflamingo's knowledge now, if he is not mistaken, the Dragon Claw Fist that Dorag created himself is essentially a kind of Qigong technique. "I see." Doflamingo nodded slightly and agreed. Then Lao Ji continued. "As for the technique of storing vitality that you mentioned just now, my lord, it is true. In our Diwangchen, there is a secret technique that can be regarded as a top-level secret technique among fighting techniques in the world. That is Diwang boxing profound truth fighting Baochuan. The core of this profound secret is to preserve one's surging vitality in the air when you are young, and when you get older, or when you encounter some invincible and powerful enemy, just by exploding the qi, and forcibly infusing the vitality contained in the qi into your body, so as to achieve a comprehensive transcendence of physical fitness." After a short pause, Lao Ji continued, "Naval Headquarters has a body technique called 6 forms, which is called superhuman body technique. As far as I know, when someone is fully proficient in 6 forms, he can carry out comprehensive manipulation of the body, so as to master a technique called life return. Young master, have you heard of it?" "I've heard of it." Doflamingo nodded immediately. Marine 6 Styles, one of the foundation of the world's government, is an extremely comprehensive physical training method that has been continuously summarized by the masters of the world's government. The power of this set of physical skills lies in the fact that the foundation is very solid. If you can learn all the 6 forms of practice and use them proficiently, it basically means that your physical fitness has reached its peak, breaking through the normal human body limit. At the same time, you can control your body meticulously. It is difficult for ordinary people to control their hair, but you can, and you can mobilize the vitality in your body to form the technique of returning life. Once you master life return, it means that you have 100% control over your body. In the future, no matter what other fighting skills, or sword skills, Qigong skills, etc., you can quickly master them, Grandmaster. Therefore, both Marine and CP organizations regard the 6 forms as their basic skills. No matter whether you want to take the route of Demon Fruit Power, Hockey route, or Sword Hero route, anyway, you are here, learn the 6 forms for me first. Mode. It is the basic skill of the basic skill. Seeing that Doflamingo had heard about it, Lao Ji didn't describe anything more but said, according to Diwang boxing records, Marine 6 Styles, a technique for comprehensively controlling vitality and body, actually has a large part from our set of boxing techniques. The inspiration I got, if we only talk about this point, there is no doubt that Diwang Fist is stronger. Doflamingo nodded his head in approval. From the point of view of expressive power alone, Diwang Quan is indeed stronger than the 6 forms in controlling, using, and exploding vitality. After all, the purpose of creating the 6 forms, in the final analysis, is the basic skills. There are more profound advanced skills, such as flying finger pistol, but that's about it. So after Lao Ji finished speaking, Doflamingo asked directly, "Lao, I want to learn this technique that can explode the vitality in my body, so as to comprehensively enhance my physical fitness and achieve a skill beyond the normal, is it okay?" Lao Ji froze for a moment, then nodded without hesitation and said, "My lord, whatever you want to learn from me, I will be more than happy to teach you." Doflamingo, on his way back from West Blue, was thinking about his ability to absorb and store a lot of life force. These vitality are under the effect of the fruit ability to maintain one's immortality, ensuring that one can quickly recover after being severely injured. But Doflamingo thinks, can there be other uses for these huge vitality? Then, Lao Ji, the cadre of his own family, came out of his mind. Wouldn't it be great if he could transform the huge life force he had stored into a power that could burst seeds, enhance his own quality by leaps and bounds, and achieve surpassing combat effectiveness when needed? As the saying goes, offense is the best defense. Instead of saving your vitality for healing, it is better to explode your vitality and use it to kill the enemy. In the collection room of the Donquixote family, Doflamingo is leading Helding to pick out the goods here. Speaking of which, have you considered what kind of devil fruit you want to eat? Doflamingo asked. I heard that Logia's devil fruit is the strongest. If I can, of course I want to eat Logia. This guy Helding was really blunt and said very straightforwardly. Foo. Logia. Doflamingo smiled, then opened a safe, took out the devil fruit inside and said, Logia snow fruit. We got it not long ago. There really is. Helding was also stunned, very surprised. Although he was straightforward and said that he wanted to eat Logia's devil fruit, he was not a fool, so he naturally knew how precious Logia's devil fruit was. It was just a talk at first, but the young master actually took out one directly. Our Donquixote family is quite influential on the devil fruit channel, at least in North Blue. Most of the devil fruit that emerges from North Blue must pass through our hands. This snow fruit is the only Logia ability we currently have in our hands, but to be honest, the strength of this fruit may be. Doflamingo wanted to make a judgment at this point. In connection with the original story, Monet's use of this ability, it really seems that this fruit is a bit of a dish. But think about it, the strength of the fruit should not be judged by the ability person is the only criterion. Monet himself is not good at fighting, but is better at obtaining information, so it is reasonable to show his hips a little bit. If someone who is good at fighting uses this ability, it should still be very strong. Therefore, Doflamingo will stop talking about this aspect of the analysis. In fact, Helding is not very interested in snow fruit, and said, compared to snow, I prefer the violent and wild Logia power. Thunder fruit. Doflamingo joked with a smile. Ah. Helding laughed out loud, not really taking it seriously. After chatting for a while, Doflamingo said again, from my point of view, if you are a giant, there is no need to pursue Logia. On the contrary, Paramecia and Zone are more suitable for you. Oh? How do you say? Helding asked seriously. In fact, when he said that he wanted to eat devil fruit or something, it was just an idea. He didn't think about it seriously. If Doflamingo was not too active in the original story, after more than 20 years, he still couldn't find devil fruit to eat. The giant race is known for its physical fitness. This is your racial advantage, so it is a perfect match with Zone. If you can absorb a powerful Zone ability, the basic quality is improved. Thanks to your base number, changes will also be possible. It will be very obvious, Doflamingo said. Just kidding. If a small human race eats the Niu fruit and a giant race eats the Niu fruit, can the effect be the same? After Helding heard the words, after thinking about it, he felt that what Doflamingo said seemed to make sense. Secondly, there is Paramecia. Paramecia's abilities are all kinds of strange, and her characteristics are also very fancy. But with all due respect, although your giants have obvious physical advantages, they also have many shortcomings, Doflamingo said. Helding sighed a little and said, in terms of reaction, speed, etc., we are much worse than you humans. So, for example, if you can eat a mini fruit, you can shrink your body size at any time, then with your normal body, you have such power. It's scary. What to do, everything is convenient, of course. I'm not saying that this fruit is necessary, but I just want to tell you that Paramecia's ability, its creativity, is higher. On the contrary, Logia's words are just a simple and crude energy output. For you giants. Not a good fit, Doflamingo said. It makes sense, but the mini fruit of Paramecia has already been eaten by my friend. Her name is Lily Ernst Mark, Helding said with a smile. Doflamingo had a little impression of this Lily Ernst Mark. Didn't expect this giantess to eat devil fruit so early? But he didn't talk to Helding about this, and the topic soon returned to the devil fruit discussion. Then, Doflamingo showed Helding some of the rest of the Donquixote family's collection. If none of these are suitable, we still have the devil fruit illustrated book in hand. You can go to the illustrated book and choose an ability you like, and then we can go to the dark world to buy it. It is also possible to get it, Doflamingo said. Thank you, young master. Hayerding responded, and continued. By the way, when you were chatting with Senior Rao just now, I heard something. It seems that you have an extremely strong vitality, don't you? Well, because of my ability, my vitality is quite strong. Doflamingo raised his eyebrows. Speaking of this, he still felt a little guilty. Helding probably thought of his own lifespan because of this, right? However, it was obvious that Helding didn't think about it, but continued. I'm ashamed to say, since I joined the Donquixote family, I haven't been able to kill powerful enemies for you, and I haven't been able to do anything else. On the contrary, it is you who not only imparted all the knowledge about hockey to me, but also found me a suitable devil fruit so considerately, even willing to take out the cherished Logia fruit. Speaking of this, Helding was really moved. This guy Doflamingo may be a jerk and a bad guy in the worldly concept, and he is a villain, but Helding doesn't care about these, he only knows that Doflamingo is really good to him. I do this for a purpose, of course. The stronger you become, the faster you grow, and you will be able to play a better role when I need you in the future, don't you? Doflamingo waved his hand calmly, said bluntly. Among the current cadres of the Donquixote family, there are not many promising ones. He finally found a Helding, who belongs to the kind of talent worth cultivating, so why not spend more money? Otherwise, in the future, I won't even be able to show a few cards in my hand, so what can I say to make Don Quixote great again? As a giant, Helding doesn't care about Doflamingo's straightforwardness and purpose, and although he understands the truth, he still appreciates it in his heart. Helding skipped these, and continued, Young master, our giants have a unique skill called Elbaf's Spear, which is very powerful. If you are interested, I would like to share this unique skill with you. Share it with you. Doflamingo? Can this thing be shared casually? Also, can I learn this? Thinking of this, Doflamingo couldn't help but asked. This is the unique skill of your giants, can I learn it? It won't violate any rules, right? Of course not. Elbaf's Spear is the glory of the god of war. The more people who learn this trick, the more it means that the light of the god of war will shine on the earth. We, Elbaf, have never made a rule that this skill is not allowed to be spread outside, said hesitantly. Hearing this, Doflamingo just wanted to say, as expected of a giant family, what an atmosphere. But soon, Helding said again, of course, this is the unique skill of our giants after all, so even if outsiders want to learn it, it is very difficult, so even if we don't prohibit it, outsiders who know this trick, and there are not many of them. Before Doflamingo could speak, Helding continued. The reason why it is difficult is that if you want to learn this trick, you must have two elements. First, your strength is strong enough, and your vitality is strong enough. Strength and vitality? Doflamingo thought for a while and then understood. Needless to say, the strength of the giant race is generally strong, and their vitality. They can live for 300 years, what do you think? My lord, although your strength is not as good as mine, you are much stronger than the normal giants. This is completely satisfactory. As for the vitality, it depends on what you said is strong vitality. Is it enough? Only strong and exuberant vitality can exert explosive power when swinging Elbaf's spear. Helding said seriously. After all, the spear of Elbaf also pursues an ultimate eruption at the moment it is swung, and any power that requires an eruption is basically inseparable from the factor of vitality. After all, if you don't have enough vitality and energy, you are dying, so why are you exploding? The sun is scorching, but Doflamingo, a vampire, still maintains outdoor activities. In the huge swimming pool courtyard in Miguel Castle, Doflamingo was only wearing a pair of beach shorts and lying on a sun lounger at this time. Not far away, a large group of beauties in swimsuits were laughing and playing in the cool and refreshing pool. Those who are more courageous even dare to splash some water on the young master when they swim from the Doflamingo side. Hey, Smita, your bikini strap seems to be loose. Doflamingo teased the beauty in the pool. Just as he was enjoying his life here, Senor and Helding walked in from outside the courtyard. I heard from Virgo, after you ate that vampire fruit, didn't you hate the sun? It's more than 30 degrees today. Dover. Senor looked at Doflamingo sitting by the pool, a little funny said. Whose vampire would rather stand in the sun than watch beautiful women by the pool? Master Senor, Mr. Peak. I have to say that Senor is still very attractive. As soon as this guy came over, many beauties in the pool yelled at him, as if they wanted to drag him into the water. But Senor is completely immune to them and doesn't bother to pay attention to them at all. He is completely different from Doflamingo, who loves sex. This guy is more cold. Senor. I said a long time ago that the principle of being a human being is that the more you fear something, the more you have to face it. I really hate the sun, but I can't completely eliminate the sun, so if this is the case, I have to adapt it. 1 point. What I am doing now is about adapting to the sun, so I can't always use a parasol when I want to fight with people in the future, right? Doflamingo argued very reasonably. After hearing this, the upright giant Hayarding couldn't help but sigh. Senor, I think what the young master said makes sense, and this is also a kind of practice. Senor glanced helplessly at this idiot, Helding, and said, okay, I'll consider what he said makes sense, but Virgo said that before eating devil fruit, some people yelled, I don't be a human being anymore. Don't you think it's funny to talk about the principles of being a human being here? Doflamingo was stunned for a moment, then his face darkened slightly and he said, is Virgo's mouth so broken? Tell you everything? In fact, despite Doflamingo's annoyed look, in fact he just wanted to change the subject. The atmosphere among the cadres of the Donquixote family is very harmonious. Although they are not real blood relatives, they are far closer than ordinary blood relatives. It's not the first time that Virgo told other people about Doflamingo's embarrassing things, not only him, but also Doflamingo, who secretly told others about other people's embarrassing things. Fortunately, Senor also knew that the young master still needs to save face, so he didn't continue to entangle. Seeing that Senor didn't mention it anymore, Doflamingo asked again. How is it? Have you read the Devil Fruit illustrated book? It's over. Helding replied first. Without waiting for Doflamingo to ask any more questions, Senor said directly, Herding has taken a fancy to Paramisha Zajauguo. Zhizongguo, similar to Gladius' ability, is the ability of the Bomberman under Crocodile in the original story. The ability can turn the body into a bomb. The air exhaled can explode, and the boogers ejected can explode. The power is good. The ability is also quite powerful. This is supposed to be a very powerful devil fruit. Once developed, it can go straight to the top, not to mention the strength, but at least it is no problem to be a powerful master like a big pirate. As a result, because of the ability user's own hip stretching, this fruit also became extremely hip stretching. The combination of giants and fried fruits is really a king-like combination. Doflamingo touched his chin and said with emotion. Apart from other things, the giant race is much more powerful than ordinary humans just because of the self-destruction. With Hayarding's physique, if he can really find the fried fruit and eat it, he will be a walking superbomb in the future. If he can develop the fruit ability to the point of awakening, then this fruit will be even more pervert. It is completely possible to turn the island or something directly into a superbomb. If you want to lay an ambush, destroying Marine's elite troops is as easy as eating and drinking. I also think it's very suitable. If it can be done, Helding will definitely become very strong, Senor said. Seeing this, Doflamingo directly picked up the phone on the side table and dialed it. After a while, maybe 5 or 6 seconds, the phone bug was picked up, and immediately, a sticky and uncomfortable voice came. But it's clear that Doflamingo has gotten used to the sound over the years. Because this voice was exactly the voice of Torbull, who followed him the first time. Dover, is there anything I want to tell you? Torbull said stickily at the phone bug. Shut down your stickiness, Torbull, it makes me uncomfortable. Although he was used to it, Doflamingo still complained. Then, without waiting for Torbull to speak, Doflamingo continued. About the business of devil fruit, release as much news as possible in the dark world, offer a reward for Paramisha Zebo fruit, and the channel dealers who cooperate with us also make it clear. This fruit is very popular with our Donquixote family. Whoever can find it will buy it at a premium of 50%, and the next year's tribute will be exempted. Understood. Torbull responded first, and then said, leave it to me. This devil fruit is not a rare thing, and there is no relevant ability user in my impression. It may be in the hands of some fruit collectors. I will find it as soon as possible. Then I'll leave it to you. Doflamingo laughed, and then said, speaking of which, don't stay in Flevance for too long. You've been there for almost a year, right? Now that the platinum lead business has done, why don't you come back? This guy Torbull's strength is very good, and his ability is beyond words. He is ugly and his voice is not good. It can be said that he looks disgusting all over his body. But among other things, his loyalty to Doflamingo is absolutely dead set. For many people in high positions, loyalty is the most important thing. What's more, Torbull's ability to handle affairs is very strong. Although he is good at things, he manages the big and small businesses in the family very well, and he can be called the family manager. And Doflamingo is also very relieved to hand over all the business that he does not have to personally come to Torbull to take full responsibility, and the rest of the cadres must obey Torbull's arrangements in this regard. So far, Torbull has handled things quite well, and the business of Donquixote family is booming. It is because of him in charge of the overall situation that Doflamingo can have more time to practice and enjoy life. Otherwise, family affairs alone could drown Doflamingo directly. Over the past few years, Doflamingo has also been investigating and dividing the cadres of the Donquixote family, and then planning for the future. As I said before, the young master thinks that although his family members are very loyal, most of them are rookies with no future and potential in terms of strength. In terms of force value, they will definitely not be able to keep up in the future. But no matter what kind of mentality and ideas Doflamingo has, it is impossible to say that these loyal cadres who started with him have been abandoned. Otherwise, once people's hearts are scattered, it will be difficult to lead the team. Therefore, Doflamingo has continuously adjusted their positions over the years, just to test their abilities in other areas. The Donquixote family is not a purely violent organization or a fighting gang. Therefore, it is absolutely impossible to measure value by force among high-level executives. Such a large business always needs relevant and suitable personnel to handle it. Therefore, Doflamingo intends to turn those weak guys into backups as much as possible. The first-line players must be Virgo, Helding, Senor, Lao Ji, Diamante, etc. So far, it's all going well. Torbull knew that Doflamingo had always felt that Flevance was not a good place, and he would not have gone to Flevance if it hadn't been for something that required him to come forward. My young master stubbornly believed that there were traces of toxins floating in the air of Flevance. Therefore, these words, which seem to be accusations, are actually concerned about him. Torbull smiled stickily again, and then said seriously, "Dover, the platinum lead business is indeed settled, but when I was about to leave, Flevance appeared a little accident." "What accident?" Doflamingo asked softly. "In Flevance, a group of people were secretly executed because they had an outbreak of platinum lead disease," Torbull said softly. "Platinum lead disease," Doflamingo murmured. "In my impression, the outbreak of platinum lead disease should be a few years later, around 1504 to 1506. Why has the accident started now?" But after thinking about it, Doflamingo understood that the outbreak of this disease must be continuous, and it is impossible to say that the whole country has a unified disease at a certain time. Hundreds of years ago, the first group of people who came into contact with platinum lead, their descendants may be the first to break out of platinum lead disease, and then wave after wave, with the continuous development of platinum lead mines, the people who came into contact it also gradually expanded, and the follow-up continued to accumulate until the sea was around 1504. Flevance began to have a large-scale outbreak of platinum lead disease, and within 2 years, the country was completely wiped out. Thinking about it this way, patients with platinum lead disease have begun to appear in Flevance, which seems to be normal. A human tragedy is about to take place. But what does that have to do with his Donquixote family? No one can stop this kind of tragedy from happening. On the contrary, it should be a bloody gluttonous feast. Doflamingo probably had some signs and ideas in his heart, but Torbull said it directly, which shows that he has been thinking about these during this time. Dover. Although the current Flevance can still block the news and maintain the prosperity on the surface, from the moment when the platinum lead disease began to appear, in fact, for those of us who know the inside story, it is very difficult. I understand that the destruction of Flevance has entered the countdown. I have also met with some great nobles of Flevance these days. I can confirm that the great nobles and royal families of Flevance have already begun. The assets have been transferred to Marie Joyce. The Duke of Lister and the royal family have even negotiated asylum conditions with the world government, and soon, these guys will leave Flevance and live on Marie Joyce. Torbull finally accepted with his sticky tone. He spoke very quickly. Marie Joy is not the holy place imagined by these rural nobles. Just wait and see. In a few years, they will be eaten up by the hungry wolves on Marie Joyce, and they will be driven out with nothing left. Doflamingo sneered. Living in Marie Joyce in the early years, Doflamingo knows it very well. Indeed, Marie Joyce has gathered many nobles, royal families, and rich people from all over the world. But these people, basically, will change after a few years. It can be said that these guys, when they are on their own territory, they cut their own people like leeks, but when they come to Marie Joyce is on the food chain. Those at the top will also treat them like leeks. Big fish eat small fish, it's like this everywhere. Some clever ones, who can react early, will find ways to keep climbing and gradually become fish eaters. Those idiots who are so stupid that they regard Marie Joyce as a holy place for nobles will be sucked up sooner or later. The royal families and great nobles of Flevance are not the only ones who went to Marie Joyce to take refuge. In fact, the franchise countries under the government of the world maintain about 170 all the year round, and they are constantly changing. These changes mean what? It means that some countries will disappear if they say no. But no matter what kind of country it is, there will always be some people who will run away before it doesn't. Often these people are big nobles, royal families, etc., and they will suck up the last bit of blood before the country completely collapses, and then fantasized about being able to enjoy the protection of the government of the world and go to Marie Joyce to live a good life. How can there be so many beautiful lives? If the government of the world had taken good care of these guys, Marie Joy's would have been overcrowded. In fact, this kind of protection was more like a kind of abduction, tricked into slaughtering pigs. Only the celestial dragons and the high-ranking officials of the world government can really enjoy life in Marie Joy's. When they take care of the rest of the country nobles, especially the nobles who have lost their own country, they can easily and skillfully. It's incredible. So I thought, instead of letting their wealth be devoured by those hungry wolves on Marie Joy's, it's better. Torbull said here, after a slight pause. Why don't we hire some pirates and put their treasure ship was hijacked? Can we get the information clearly? Doflamingo didn't hesitate at all about the immorality of such a thing, but asked about the feasibility. That's right. Everyone in the upper class of Flevance is panicking. A lot of news is like a sieve. As long as you are willing to inquire, you can always find it. Speaking of which, this year Flevance can continue so much for us. Mining rights, I'm afraid they also have the idea of killing us at the end. Torbull said a little angrily. Originally, the related business was negotiated, and Torbull felt that he had gained a lot this time, but when he was about to leave, he realized that it seemed to be calculated by these dogs of Flevance. According to the current situation, look, no one can tell whether Flevance can last for 5 or 6 years. Isn't this mining right sold casually? Since you slaughtered us Donquixote family first, don't blame us for lighting up the butcher knife. Find something reliable to do, and when it's done, silence everything. Doflamingo said immediately. Understood, leave it to me. Torbull agreed. After a pause, Torbull said again. Dover, besides that, there is also a question about the platinum lead market. Once Flevance fails, the production of platinum lead can be said to be discontinued immediately. Therefore, if platinum and lead survive today, the price will definitely rise sharply in the future. Do we want to stock up? Platinum lead is especially sought after by the upper-class nobles. Some people use platinum lead to pour tea for meals, so that they can look rich and tasteful. And these, in fact, are the values cultivated by the world's government for hundreds of years. In addition, the performance of platinum lead is also very good. It is a material for manufacturing some high-end arms and some technological equipment. Therefore, the price of platinum lead has always remained high. At the same time, demand is far greater than supply. Now Flevance will be finished in a few years. At that time, the output of platinum and lead will definitely avalanche, and the price of platinum and lead will inevitably rise rapidly. Therefore, if you stock up now, it is very likely that there will be blood in the future. It makes sense. If this is the case, let's start receiving and hoarding the goods, but on the surface, platinum lead may be discontinued, but in fact, we can't let it stop. In this way, after the destruction of Flevance, as much as possible many bought the platinum lead ore source of Flevance from the world government, and told the world government that we can continue to mine platinum lead mines at the risk of contracting platinum lead disease, so as to ensure that the world government's demand for platinum and lead can get the corresponding satisfaction, and at the same time, ask them to provide us with sufficient convenience in this regard. Doflamingo ordered. Keep digging. But once something like the destruction of Flevance happens, it may be difficult for us to organize people who are willing to go there to dig a hole. Torbull said with a little hesitation. When things get serious, who the hell is willing to go to Flevance to mine? Isn't that the same as forcing people to die? We have so many Nako slaves in our hands. Just send them to be whitened. Don't you think this is also a kind of reward? Doflamingo said cruelly. With Nico in my hand, don't panic. At that time, the platinum lead that North Blue dare not dig, only my Donquixote family dares to dig. The benefits here are simply not too great. Doflamingo's strange speech made Torbull silent for a long time. But thinking about it carefully, it seems that there is nothing wrong with what my young master said. Those slaves named Nige by the young master are rare in Torbull, and they feel that the young master is very disgusted, and they can even be said to be a disgusting race. Anyway, they are not liked by the young master, so it is no problem to send them to create surplus value. Understood. Then I will start to organize the manpower now. First send a group of Nako to dig in Flevance for a few years, get familiar with the situation, and then it will be easy to operate. Torbull replied. Well, I don't worry about your work. Doflamingo said with a smile. It was supposed to end here, but after a moment of silence, Doflamingo hesitated for a moment, and finally said, Pika is with you, they are all in Flevance, right? Pika? Yes, that guy ate Paramecia's shishi fruit 2 days ago, and he has been experimenting with his abilities these days, but thanks to his abilities, at least our platinum and lead production has increased a lot these days. If it weren't for the platinum lead poisoning problem in Flevance, I really want to arrange for him to stay in Flevance for mining all year round. Torbull said with a smile. Doflamingo? Well, shishi fruit. Can it still be useful? Thinking of this, Doflamingo even felt that the impression of Pika as a little waste in his heart suddenly became sparkling. The Donquixote family itself has a mining business in North Blue, but it is not a big one. Among the industries, there are 3 small and medium-sized gold mines, several iron mines, copper mines, and some platinum lead mines in Flevance. In the eyes of the North Blue mining giant, it can only be regarded as a small fight. After all, the background of Donquixote family lies here, and it has only been developed for a few years. However, the high profit of the mining industry really makes Doflamingo attach great importance to it. Therefore, in the proportion of business, Doflamingo has repeatedly emphasized that it is necessary to deepen the mining industry and strive to continuously expand the business of the Donquixote family in this area and become a global mining giant. Of course, what he values more is the influence in the mining industry. The operation of the world is inseparable from these humble minerals. If Pika is the core and a Donquixote family mining team is formed, to be honest, if Pika can develop his abilities to the extent he showed in Dressrosa later, it will be very good. Because at that level, the mining efficiency of Pika alone can catch up with tens of thousands of people. In particular, he can also change the geological conditions, transform the deep mines that were not easy to dig into open pit mines directly, and then arrange miners to dig up and it's over. What does this mean? It means that you can pick up leaks. As we all know, the ore sources that are easy to dig, especially the kind of open pit mines that are almost free to pick up, are quite expensive. One is in the sky and the other is underground. Relatively speaking, North Blue's relatively easy mining sources are basically in the hands of North Blue's mining giants. If the Donquixote family wants to overtake on a curve, then make good use of Pika's ability to purchase some difficult to develop mineral sources and transform them into open pit mines. The feasibility is extremely high. Doflamingo had been thinking about Pika before. What industry would be more suitable for Donquixote family in the future? After all, you can call him Hammerman, he is just tall and strong, but in fact his strength is not outstanding. The rest of the business talents are almost zero. Originally, Doflamingo planned to arrange for him to be the captain of the guard in the future, and just follow him as a pretend guard. After all, this guy looks tall and muscular. As long as you don't speak, superficial skills are fine. Looking at it now, sure enough, how should I put it, even a piece of toilet paper has its own value, this is absolutely true. Arranging for Pika to mine, how much Bailey can be earned for the Donquixote family every year? Good ability. Before, I always regarded Shishi fruit as a combat ability. I really am too superficial, Doflamingo commented. After a slight pause, he said again, tell Pika to think about his abilities. I will definitely use his strong body. Pika will be very happy to hear this, Torbull said with a smile. No one is a fool, and the cadres of the family can also feel that in the past 2 years, their young masters have been constantly trying to change positions for them, which is to explore the possibility of other directions in them. Many people have found their own direction, such as Aunt Jorah's art smuggling business, and the status of a chief executive like Torbull. But there are also some people, like Pika, who are too high to be low and can't find the right direction, so they will naturally hesitate in their hearts, for fear that they will be left in a corner by the young master one day, and will never be remembered again. But I can't find the direction, I just can't find it, there is no way. But now it's different. Pika's value has jumped to the forefront of Donquixote family members, and he will definitely be reused in the future. Can he be unhappy if he knows? However, the reason why Doflamingo mentioned Pika was not because of the digging, but was inspired by Torbull's words for a while. Soon, Doflamingo withdrew his thoughts and got back to business. Since Pika is free and has nothing else to do, help me find someone in Flevance and bring their family to Cervantes. Who are you looking for? Torbull never asked too much, he knew that it was enough for him to execute what the young lord ordered. The doctor named Trafalgar, if I remember correctly, he should be the #1 doctor in Flevance, and his medical skills are very superb, Doflamingo said immediately. There is no doubt that this Dr. Trafalgar refers to the father of Trafalgar Law. Trafalgar Law's parents are actually doctors, especially his father. According to Luo's childhood memories, he told his sick sister that his father was the best doctor in Flevance, ranked first, and he would definitely be able to cure her platinum lead disease. It can be seen that Dr. Trafalgar's medical skills must be very powerful. Even in North Blue, he is considered one of the best. The reason is also very simple. For hundreds of years, because of platinum and lead, Flevance has been a very wealthy country in North Blue, and countries like this are not short of money. Generally speaking, their education and medical care the level should be the best in the same region. Because a large number of rich people will take the initiative to cultivate outstanding talents in these fields, so as to avoid problems in the education of their offspring in the future, and prevent them from dying of illness before they spend all their money in the future. Therefore, Dr. Trafalgar is probably the strongest doctor in North Blue if he can rank first in a rich country like Flevance. He is completely a high-end talent and worth saving. At the same time, Doflamingo is also mainly considering the kid Trafalgar Law. In fact, if left unattended, with the Trafalgar Law family dying out following the tragedy of Flevance, this kid will also embark on the road of destroying the world and come to look for the Donquixote family on his own initiative. But this kind of Trafalgar Law, Doflamingo is really not very reassuring to use it. After all, a person who wants to destroy the world and take revenge on society, how much loyalty do you expect him to have? Secondly, Rosinante's worrying younger brother might come back in the future. Who can say for sure about fate? No one can fully control the future and life, and Doflamingo also hopes that nothing will happen to destroy the Trafalgar Law, which was originally the most potential of the Donquixote family. Therefore, it is better to pull their family out of the big Uzumaki in Flevance in advance, and wait until they have the opportunity to get op fruit in the future, and then cure them or something, be kind to others, and win people's hearts. In this way, Trafalgar Law, this boy, he also took it easy. Facts have proved that Dr. Trafalgar is indeed very famous in Flevance, and it is very easy to find. The day after Doflamingo finished his order, Pika had already inquired about the good news and found Dr. Trafalgar's address. After he knocked on the door, soon, a little boy who looked only about 5 or 6 years old opened the door. This little boy is none other than Trafalgar Law. Who are you looking for? Trafalgar Law looked at Pika's tall and strong figure and asked very curiously. Pika looked down at the kid, and then said in a thin voice, "Is Dr. Trafalgar at home?" This boy Luo was obviously frightened by Pika's unusual voice, but he quickly reacted and said, "Are you here to treat your throat? My father is at home, come in quickly, don't worry, your problem, my father will definitely help you cure it." Pika. What's more, if the young master hadn't told me clearly that he would take all of your family to Cervantes and would take care of you as family members in the future, otherwise, based on what you said just now, I will take care of you. 2 legs. Suppressing the emotion in his heart that wanted to tear the kid into pieces, Pika nodded twitchingly, and walked into the room. In fact, Dr. Trafalgar basically practiced at his own home, so many patients would come to see him at home. The appearance of Pika did not surprise the family. As one of the top doctors in Flevance, their family is indeed very rich. Luo took Pika first through the living room, then into a courtyard, and then walked through the courtyard before arriving at the door of a single family house. Here is where patients are received. It seemed that he heard the movement outside the door, and soon, a middle-aged man with a public face and glasses came out, and said with a smile, "Luo, did you bring me a patient again? That's great. Woolen cloth. I am determined to become an excellent doctor like you, Dad, and I am accumulating experience now." Trafalgar Law first responded proudly, and then quickly said, "This patient has a bad voice and speaks in a very high-pitched voice. Thin." Pika's face twitched, and he said directly, "Dr. Trafalgar." When he spoke, Dr. Trafalgar was also a little surprised, and then interrupted Pika with a serious face. "Hi, my name is Trafalgar Nelson, you can call me Dr. Nelson. I would like to ask about your situation, is it natural, or was it stimulated the day after tomorrow? When you see a doctor, you must not hide anything. Whatever I ask, you have to answer honestly. In this way, we can cure your disease quickly and well." Pika. Please, from when I entered the door until now, when did I say that I came to see a doctor? Are all your doctors so professional? But speaking of it, Pika himself is a little bit shy about his voice, and even said that he has low self-esteem. Hearing what Nelson said now, for some reason, he replied in a strange way, "Natural. So that's the case. It's probably because some organs in the pronunciation part are deformed. We need to do further inspections. Come on, come in first, let's talk about it in detail." Nelson stepped aside, Pika was invited in. Pika looked at the door with a silent expression, hesitated for a moment, and finally gritted her teeth and walked in. "HMPH, the young master values your medical skills, so why not let me test you for the young master, my voice, but many doctors say it can't be cured." At the same time, in the port of Cervantes, a huge strange creature is slowly approaching here. If you take a closer look, this creature looks like a giant snail. That's right, this is the technology and hard work of Germa Kingdom, Warhouse. Since Doflamingo agreed to inject funds into MADS, Judge said that he would bring their mad scientists to visit Donquixote family. In fact, it's a visit to let everyone get to know each other. In fact, it's just to urge Doflamingo to make money quickly. Don't just say you want to invest, in fact, you don't want to pull out a dime. As for Doflamingo, he is also waiting for such an opportunity to meet the talents of MADS. As one of the few. No, it should be said that it is the only existence that can fight against the Donquixote family in the dark world of North Blue. Doflamingo still gives Judge this guy a lot of face. When the warhouse slowly docked in the bay, Doflamingo was already wearing a black suit and holding a black parasol, waiting on the pier with Virgo and Senor. On the one hand, he is a Judge face, on the other hand, he is also looking forward to meeting the scientists of Mads, especially Dr. Vegapunk. Soon, the tall and burly Judge took the lead and walked down from the warhouse with several Mads bosses. From afar, he saw Doflamingo, with a false smile on his face, he waved, happy, and when he came forward, he even took the initiative to hold Doflamingo's hand, and shook it vigorously. Your Excellency Doflamingo, although we have been friends in North Blue for a long time, this is the first time we have met, right? Fur. I have been looking forward to this day of meeting for a long time. I think this will definitely be a historic day for both of us. Doflamingo said with an evil smile. Perhaps, in the future, this day will be the anniversary of Germa's incorporation into the Donquixote family or something. However, Judge obviously didn't understand Doflamingo's sinister intentions. After a few simple greetings with Doflamingo, he began to introduce the big shots behind him. The first thing he introduced was Dr. Vegapunk, who seemed to have a huge head. Although Dr. Vegapunk is a top scientist in the world, he is not very cold and arrogant. On the contrary, he has a very approachable personality. He was fed up with the troubles of research funds, so when facing his big sponsor, he would not show off, smiled and shook hands with Doflamingo and said, I heard a friend mention you, Mr. Doflamingo. It's interesting to say that your mind is complex. Doflamingo was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, Mr. Dorag? That's right. Dr. Vegapunk responded with a smile. Although Doflamingo is very curious about Dr. Vegapunk, in fact, he is not very interested, because he knows very well that Dr. Vegapunk will not be recruited by the Donquixote family in a short period of time. Because once the bloodline factor theory is opened, the government of the world will definitely win Vegapunk, and whoever blocks it will die. The current Donquixote family does not have the power to fight against the world government. But you can also form a good relationship. After all, Dr. Vegapunk is not the same as the world's government, and there are still opportunities in the future. Compared with Dr. Vegapunk, Doflamingo is more interested in two other scientific talents, Quinn and Guy Saw. These two guys belong to the kind of people who are powerful and have no moral bottom line. What does this mean? It means they are very in tune with Doflamingo. Soon, at the port, everyone introduced themselves briefly to each other, and then Doflamingo led them back to the castle. The banquet is ready, and they have to be entertained anyway. Judge walked side by side with Doflamingo. He turned sideways and asked, Your Excellency Doflamingo, the 20 billion Bailey investment I mentioned last time. Now it is not more than 20 years later, when the era of great pirates has come, the world has gradually become chaotic, resulting in the unsmooth flow of various routes, the decline of the commodity economy, the inflation of the world economy, and the time when money is worthless. Now it can be said that during the afterglow of marine justice, the power of pirates is basically blocked in New World, and the rest of the routes are much safer, so there has not been a large-scale inflation. The purchasing power of 20 billion Baileys is still very strong. For the whole year, Donquixote family's revenue and net profit in North Blue are only more than 60 billion Baileys. Although these are the pure profits of the business, after they are obtained, there will be a lot of expenses. It must be money to bribe North Blue nobles and officials, right? Donquixote family's benefits are satisfied, right? Doesn't it cost money to replace ships, or even invest in new businesses? Therefore, the expenditure of 20 billion Baileys is not a small number for the current Donquixote family. Our Donquixote family must mean what we say. Judge, you can rest assured. Ask around in the dark world. Who doesn't know that I, Doflamingo, is an honest and reliable young man? We have been able to develop the Donquixote family to this point over the years. What is it? It depends on reputation, Doflamingo said with a righteous look. Judge's expression changed several times after hearing Doflamingo's words. How dare you say it? Just ask around in the dark world of North Blue, and ask everyone, what is the reason why the Donquixote family has grown to its current scale in just 7 or 8 years? Is it reputation? No. What the hell are you relying on gangsters to eat gangsters, playing rogues, persecuting by force, robbing colleagues, and killing entire families? However, the development model of the dark world is generally like this. If you want to talk about reputation, it will only appear when you are qualified to talk about reputation. Although he thought so in his heart, Judge quickly controlled his expression, and said with a look of approval, Yes, we North Blue people don't know that the Donquixote family's business is honesty. Doflamingo was also very happy to hear that Judge praised him so sincerely. But soon, Judge mentioned again, then the 20 billion we agreed on? Cough. I will definitely vote, but Judge, you should also know that the cash of 20 billion Baileys is not so easy to raise. We also need some time to raise funds. Doflamingo fooled. He said a word, and then said, what's more, this empty talk, isn't it? The latter sentence is the key point. I can't say that you Judge asked me to vote, so I voted. You give me something, take a look. Otherwise, aren't you a scam? Sure enough, Judge understood the meaning right away. With a smile on his face, he said, if your excellency asked me to bring out something exact 2 days earlier, I would be at a loss, but it's different now. Oh? It seems that our research has made a breakthrough. Doflamingo raised his eyebrows, a little curious. Of course, this was also a kind of performance, and he didn't take it seriously. Judge's words obviously seemed to be some kind of rhetoric for sales promotion. But at this moment, Judge took out a journal from his arms, handed it to Doflamingo and said, this is the latest research result we have published, and it has been published in the Frontiers Journal. This is what we have studied for many years. Through continuous trial and error, and improvement, a set of mature theories has been sorted out, which is the most advanced theory in the field of biology. Our MADS research team calls it the lineage factor theory, which may be able to open the door of God in the field of life creation. Frontiers, Doflamingo knows this, is the most authoritative scientific research journal in the world, and the things that can be published on it are truly cutting-edge technology. But what he cares about is not this, but the blood factor theory that Judge just mentioned. Doflamingo was confused for a while. The bloodline factor theory has been compiled and published. Doflamingo looked at Judge in surprise and asked. Judge was a little surprised why Doflamingo's reaction was so big, but after thinking about it, he seemed to understand, and said, oh, I don't support publishing it either. We should use it to break through the reality first, and then transform it into reality. For our own interests, this is more in line with our tisk, but Dr. Vegapunk insists on insisting that his attitude towards science may be more selfless. After a short pause, Judge said, however, there are also advantages in doing so, that is, we can attract more investors, and when the funds are sufficient, the faster we can transform this theory into practical efficiency. So, now is indeed a good time to invest in us. As long as your young master's 20 billion Baileys are in place, the future will bear fruit. At this time, Doflamingo couldn't listen to what Judge said later, and invested 20 billion. How dare I invest in it? When the bloodline factor theory was published, it represented one thing, that is, the MADS research team has basically entered the countdown to death. The government of the world will definitely take this matter seriously at the first time. In this case, the investment of 20 billion yuan is designated to be in vain, so it doesn't count. But it doesn't matter. Doflamingo didn't come here to invest in a doomed group like MADS, he just wanted to meet with Geisa, Quinn and others, get acquainted with them, and poach them. Secondly, it can be said that it is familiar with Dr. Vegapunk, maybe it will develop in the future. Meanwhile, Naval Headquarters Marineford. Outside Grand Marshal Kong's office, in the hallway, Sengoku walked side by side with Garp and Zephyr towards Grand Marshal Kong's office. It can also be seen from this that although Garp is not one of the 3 admirals, he has basically assumed some of Admiral's powers and functions, but he does not enjoy Admiral's treatment, so he does not assume Admiral's obligations. The 3 quickly walked into Marshal Kong's office together, and then Garp asked carelessly, Brother Kong, why are you calling us in such a hurry all of a sudden? In fact, Marshal Kong has a very good relationship with Sengoku and other marine bosses in private. They are basically brothers, and they used to be comrades in the same trench. Everyone regards the Marshal as their big brother and guide. At this time, when there are no outsiders, their own people will call Kong, Big Brother. Sure enough, seeing that Kong was not surprised, he handed a document in his hand to Sengoku and said, let's take a look together first, it's a special order from above. Is there Marie Joy's? Garp frowned, and then said, I'm not obliged to follow Marie Joy's orders. As soon as he finished speaking, Sengoku touched Garp and said, anyway, let's see first. They're all on their own, and Garp wouldn't be such an asshole, so he said, let's take a look first. Soon, Zephyr, Sengoku, and Garp got together to look at the file. However, there were some doubts on the faces of the 3 of them. In the end, Sengoku was the first to ask, Marshal, is there any danger in this blood factor theory? You ask me, how'd I know? Marshal Kong rolled his eyes and asked. You big bosses can't understand it, can I understand it? Zephyr smiled, and then said, I don't understand, but the above judges this technical theory is an absolute danger level, right? This is really rare. It's rare. Garp touched his chin, and then said, it's tied with the 3 ancient weapons. I don't know about the extras. It is said that this thing involves the so-called God field. If these civil organizations are allowed to study on their own, it is likely to cause huge chaos in the future. Once the technology is lost, some ambitions will be lost. In the hands of experts, it will cause great waves. So the order above is that this research team must be disbanded, and at the same time, Dr. Vegapunk, who is known as the most powerful brawn by the scientific community, will be brought back. Follow-up research, only under supervision can we continue. Marshal Kong ordered. The Sengoku and the others didn't quite understand this, but the orders and goals were very clear, and that was enough. Anyway, they couldn't understand the technology. Seeing that several people had a general understanding of the situation, Marshal Kong stopped talking and said directly, "So, you three, who will be in charge of this matter?" Garp immediately said, "I thought it was Roger's business, so I rushed here. If it is not, then I will not participate. Speaking of it, the Roger pirates have been missing for 2 months. From the end of last year to now. There is no sighting information at all. I suspect they are doing something big. I have to keep an eye on it." As soon as Garp shied away, Zephyr immediately followed up and said, "Brother, you also know that my school is at a critical moment." For Zephyr, he wanted to resign a long time ago. How could he still rush to work? As soon as the two crouching dragons and phoenixes opened their mouths, Sengoku's face twitched a few times. Come on, this job is likely to fall on Lousy's head again. But he was obviously used to it, and he really didn't have anything urgent in his hands recently, so he said directly, "Let me do it." Coming out of Marshal Kong's office, Zephyr said, "It has to be you, Sengoku." "Ahahaha. Yes, it has to be you, our good comrade." Garp laughed loudly. Sengoku rolled his eyes when he heard the words, and then said, "If you two can help me share some heavy responsibilities, I won't." But before Sengoku finished speaking, Zephyr said with a very proud look, "I won't compete with you for the position of future marshal. What else do you want?" In fact, in terms of competition, Zephyr's competitiveness is still very strong. Perhaps in terms of strength alone, he may not be stronger than Sengoku, but he did become admiral earlier than Sengoku, so his qualifications are a little higher than Sengoku. And judging from the fact that he was able to be promoted to admiral earlier than Sengoku, it can be said that Dafa must be superior. If it hadn't been for his family being ruined back then and his heart getting cold, it might be really uncertain who would be the next marshal of the Marine in the future. Sengoku immediately shut up after what Zephyr said, and Garp went too far, saying bluntly, "So, when you come back from work, I will invite you to have a drink with Xiaohei alone. During the period, I pretended to have something to do and left early. Wouldn't that be interesting?" Sengoku's old face blushed and said, "You bastard, what are you talking about?" Garp froze for a moment. "Isn't that okay? Then let it be." Garp also felt that his pimping behavior was a bit outrageous, and he was about to change his words immediately. But before he finished speaking, Sengoku patted him on the shoulder and said, "Forget it. This time it's because of the friendship we have been comrades in arms for many years. Cough. When the time comes to drink, you should leave early." After blowing some bullshit, several people walked out of the Fortress of Justice in Marineford, and then Garp said, "It's nothing, I'll go back first. There is still something to do with Kuzan. I'm going to go back and arrange the school's affairs. This is the first year that our officer training camp has been transformed into the Marine Academy. There are a lot of things to do." Zephyr also said quickly. "That's right. This year is the beginning of Sea Circle Calendar 1499, another year, a new century is coming, and in this year, Zephyr has established an officer training camp for many years, and finally went a step further and got a new round of Naval Headquarters support, become Marine Academy. Currently Zephyr is also the principal of this school, determined to cultivate more mainstays for Marine teachers of justice." Of course, Sengoku also wanted to take action, and immediately said, "Then disband. I will also go to the intelligence department to find out what kind of MADS team is this, and where is it now. I hope it is not some remote sea area. As soon as possible get it done." Soon, the three of them disbanded and left in different directions. It didn't take long for Sengoku to come to Marine's intelligence department with ease. To be honest, he came here a lot, not because he is the only full-time admiral. So many things have to be handled by him personally, mainly because Chief Staff Officer Suru and his appearance Rosinante both serve in the intelligence department. So Sengoku Admiral likes to come here when he has nothing to do. As soon as I walked into the gate of the intelligence department, I saw a beautiful woman come out of it, and said hello to Sengoku, Mr. Sengoku. "Oh, Gion, are you off work?" Sengoku also responded with a smile. "Yeah, do you want to have a drink together?" Gion said while making a cheers gesture. No, I can't drink as much as you guys, and I have other business to do. Is Xiaohei there?" Sengoku asked. "Miss Suru is inside, so I won't bother you." Gion waved his hand grandly, and left quickly. Sengoku entered the small building of the intelligence department, and soon came to the office of Chief Staff Officer Suru, then knocked on the door, and there was a reply from inside. Then, Sengoku pushed the door and entered, and saw that Chief Staff Officer Suru was talking to his adopted son Rosinante. Sengoku, are you here? Senior Staff Suru glanced at Sengoku, and then said, it seems that the higher-ups have entrusted you with that matter. The one from Mads. You already know. Sengoku Admiral was a little surprised, but then he said clearly, that's right, after all, it's the Intelligence Analysis Department. You are always the first to know any first-hand information. Admiral. Rosinante also greeted Sengoku with a smile. When there are no outsiders, I will be very happy to call you Dad, Rosinante. Sengoku rubbed Rosinante's head gently, and said with a smile. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Sengoku said, I won't say anything superfluous. How is the information about Mads collected? From the very beginning, people from the CP have cooperated. It seems that the higher-ups attach great importance to this matter, so the CP agency has also sent some relevant information. Coupled with our summary, it has basically been locked. Probably in the second half of last year, that is, in the middle of 1498, the Mads team was withdrawn by the investor. Due Field because it failed to obtain the scientific research results that the investor wanted for a long time. Due Field is the dark side of New World in his field, he has quite a great influence, and when he became angry, he forced Mads to leave New World. Chief Staff Officer Suru said immediately. It doesn't matter if you leave New World. New World is a place full of good and bad people, and it's troublesome to carry out tasks. It's always easy to get out of hand. So where are they now? Sengoku said relaxedly. Now, one of the core members of the Mads team is Vinsmoke Judge, who is the king of the North Blue Germa Kingdom, so after the research team was kicked out of the New World, they went to North Blue together. Chief Staff Officer Suru said again. North Blue? Sengoku glanced at his adopted son Rosinante. At this time, Rosinante said a little helplessly. At that time, the Mads team was in a dilemma, that is, the research and development funds were not enough, so Judge began to look for investors in North Blue. The latest information is, North Blue, the largest smuggling family, the Donquixote family, promised to invest up to 20 billion Baileys in Mads. According to our monitoring information on the Germa Kingdom, as early as more than a month ago, a warship in the Germa Kingdom House has already moved towards the base camp of the North Blue Donquixote family. Cervantes, in other words, the current Mads research team is very likely to be on Cervantes Island. When Rosinante talked about Donquixote family, he didn't put any personal emotions into it at all, and the context of information was very clear. Donquixote family. Sengoku sighed slightly. This is his adopted son, the evil family founded by Rosinante's own brother. Thinking about it, I feel a little disturbed. But still the same sentence, the world is not black and white, and marine is also useful in the dark world, and it can even be said that there are many such things, so their hostility to the Donquixote family is not very great, plus Sengoku and others the level of people is here, just a Donquixote family. Just a small party dish. Therefore, Sengoku didn't pay much attention to this Donquixote family. After looking at Rosinante, Sengoku said again, speaking of which, I haven't met that Doflamingo yet. This time I will go to see what kind of man he is. Guy. Since the Mads research team is currently in Cervantes Island, Sengoku can't wait too long, and just ask for someone directly. There are only two goals. The first one, according to the order above, everything else can be discussed, only Dr. Vegapunk must be brought back. The second is that the Mads research team must be disbanded. Thinking about this task, it's actually not very difficult, it's just that the process is a bit cumbersome. In this way, soon, the flagship of Naval Headquarters Sengoku Admiral left Marineford and headed towards the Holy Land Marie Joyce, crossed the Red Line, and arrived at North Blue. Given the performance of the warship, it would not take too long. You can go to Cervantes. Cervantes, Lao Ji's yard. At this time Doflamingo and Lao Ji are practicing together. To be honest, he has been socializing quite a lot these days, and his relationship with the Mads team is also on the rise. He just finished drinking with Quinn and Gaia yesterday. I have to say that the compatibility of the three of them is really high, because after counting them, none of them is a good person. However, while socializing, Doflamingo has never relaxed his practice. Since returning to North Blue, Doflamingo has followed Lao Ji to practice the secret technique of Dewang boxing every day, and now he has achieved some results. On the whole, Doflamingo actually only learned some core skills of Dewangchen. The first step is to feel qi, qigong, no matter what genre it is. Anyway, the first step is to feel the qi. In this regard, Doflamingo went very smoothly. It may be that he is so talented that he didn't even hit a threshold. He learned the theory on the first day, and felt angry with Lao Ji on the second day. In the afternoon, he was already successful. The second point is to integrate the vitality into the qi. This actually has a threshold in difficulty. The core concept of the vitality storage of Diwengchen is to store the energy and vitality that are not needed when you are young and vigorous, and store them in the qi. This measurement must not be too much, and the main thing is to accumulate over time. After all, if you forcibly integrate vitality into the qi, it will feel like squeezing yourself too much, and it is likely to hurt the foundation, and the gain outweighs the loss. Therefore, this step basically requires hard work. The vitality that can be used to practice every day is very small. With less practice, the accumulation of experience is naturally slow, so it is generally difficult to step into this level within a year or two. This is still a good talent. But Doflamingo is different. Others are slow to enter this level because their vitality is not enough to squander. But Doflamingo is not like this. He has a lot of vitality. If he is not enough, he will go to the dungeon of Donquixote family, where a lot of prisoners are locked. Well, you can suck as much as you want. It can be said that since the day Doflamingo returned to North Blue and Cervantes, he basically eat 3 or 5 people every day. Therefore, what other people can only practice once a day is integrate essence into qi. This guy Doflamingo practices 100 times a day. If 100 times is not enough, he should practice 1,000 times. Anyway, it has a lot of vitality, so there is nothing to be afraid of. Just because he has enough capital, he can try unscrupulously and continuously accumulate experience. So Doflamingo only spent 8 days to achieve the integration of essence and energy, that other people may not be able to complete in 3 to 2 years. And at the moment when he achieved this step, Doflamingo suddenly felt that his control over his body was much stronger than before. Accompanied by the comprehensive circulation of qi in all parts of the body without dead ends, the continuous flow of vitality is delivered to all areas of the body, which also allows Doflamingo to gain a new understanding of his body's condition. I'm afraid, it's similar to mastering the return of life, with the 6 styles Dacheng, right? The last step is to explode the qi, and fully infuse the vitality originally contained in the qi into every corner of the body, so as to forcibly improve one's own quality and achieve a state of explosion beyond the usual. Lao Ji stood at Doflamingo in front of him. He seriously described the last step of the Di Wenquan's core secret technique. As for Doflamingo, he was sitting cross-legged on the grass at this time, with his eyes closed, as if he was exercising. In fact, he was indeed exercising. The whole body is running continuously. This step must not be rushed, if you are impatient. Lao Ji was still talking carefully from the side. But before he finished speaking, he saw the muscles of Doflamingo's arms swell suddenly, and then quickly shriveled, and then, with a bang, Doflamingo's snort and mouth sprayed out several streams of dirty blood. Lao Ji's face twitched a little, and then said, "If you are too impatient, it is easy to cause internal injuries. Forcibly infusing vitality is not a simple matter. Although vitality is a good thing, if you infuse too much at one time, your body may not be able to bear it. This requires the luck skills of Diwengchen. Let the qi widen your body. The capacity of the body, in any case, the doorway here is very complicated." Doflamingo opened his eyes, wiped off the blood on his face without saying a word, and with a wave of his hand, the dirty blood seemed to be controlled and sprinkled on the soil beside him. Again. Doflamingo said without hesitation. When he finished speaking, the internal injury caused by the failure of luck had obviously healed. Cultivation is like hanging up, and it is him who is talking about it. The reason why Doflamingo can master the core technique of Diwengchen so quickly is that he is not afraid of death and recovers quickly. Without Lao Ji opening his mouth, Doflamingo entered the state of practice again. About 2 minutes later, with a bang, a ball of blood exploded from Doflamingo's abdomen. Obviously, he failed again. But at this time, he has a set of movements, flowing clouds and flowing water, using his ability to deal with the dirty blood on his body, and at the same time his injuries have fully recovered, so he can directly practice again. Ordinary people may only practice once in 10 days and a half months, but he can practice dozens of times a day in Doflamingo. Or it could be said that the Diweng fist is getting stronger and stronger. After all, it is impossible for ordinary people to practice to a great height without anyone who has practiced it for more than 10 or 20 years. After more than 2 hours, Doflamingo vomited a lot of blood. Outside the courtyard, Diamante walked in with oil paint on his face and fancy clothes. The moment he came in, he saw Doflamingo spurting out a mouthful of old blood. "Young master." Diamante was anxious for 2 seconds, but quickly reacted, and returned to normal, and walked steadily to Lao Ji's side and said, "Lao, you have learned Diweng boxing and want to kill people. Half-life. It's definitely not this kind of process to learn normally. This is the crash version of the young master. With the extraordinary vitality and resilience, you can do this. Otherwise, you should have died. Lao Ji said in a deep voice. At the same time, Doflamingo dealt with the bloodstains, looked at Diamante and said, "How is it? How are you getting along with those two?" "Very good." Diamante nodded, but then said, "I don't think there is any problem with that guy. If there is really an accident in Mads, he should be very happy to join us," but what Quinn said. "He is a little arrogant." It's normal for a talented person to be proud and arrogant. Quinn not only has outstanding scientific research ability, but the key is that he is also very capable. He is also a zone ancient type of ability. Wherever he goes, he will be welcomed. Doflamingo said very understandingly. Unlike Guy Saw. Although Guy Saw is also a capable person, and he is also a Logia capable person, but his strength is nothing special, only scientific research ability is considered powerful. For a person like him, the platform he chooses not many. After all, not everyone, like Doflamingo, pays attention to scientific research. As for Quinn, besides scientific research, he is also very good at fighting. So he has a lot of choices, especially in New World. Everyone knows that the Beast's pirates currently entrenched in Wano Kuni especially welcome Zone's ability users to join. As an ancient type of ability user, Quinn went to the Beast's pirates. Promising. At least for now, it's more promising than Donquixote family. After all, although Kaido is not the four emperors now, he is far more famous and stronger than Don Quixote Doflamingo after all. Judge and that Dr. Vegapunk can't sit still anymore. It seems that they want to leave as Cervantes and go back to continue their research. Diamante said again. Tell Judge that we have already raised 5 billion Baileys in cash, and there are 5 billion more, which are on the way. When we are ready with 10 billion Baileys, we will use them as an initial investment and hand them all directly to he, so let him wait, Doflamingo said directly. Of course, this is completely fooling Judge, 5 billion. In fact, Doflamingo has not even raised a hair. Now the main thing is to delay time, to see when the world government will do it. It should be soon, right? As soon as the world government made a move, he, Doflamingo, stood up and wanted to protect him. Don't say that I, Doflamingo, don't give you the face of the world government. Dr. Vegapunk can take it away, but the rest, you have to leave us some soup, right? Of course, if you want to protect someone, you must look at your strength. If your strength is not enough, you will be humiliating yourself if you stand up. But now, Doflamingo actually hopes that a powerful character can come and let him measure his own strength. I have been studying hard for 8 years, and I am waiting for such a blockbuster opportunity. Doflamingo whispered in his heart.